Hello and welcome to episode 74 of the XboxEra podcast. I'm Sikamikanico and I'm joined as usual by Shpeshal Nick.
What's going on?
And today we have a very special guest. Paul Tassi has joined us for the first time. Welcome, Paul. Thanks for coming on.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's
Thanks
a pleasure.
for coming on, mate.
If you don't know Paul, so before we dive into what we've been playing, because I have quite a few bits to talk about. There's been a bunch of really good games that have all released this week. So I'm sure that, Paul, you probably played a few of them as well if you've not been too busy. But before we go into all of that, Paul, you've been a Forbes writer forever from what I can remember, like a good decade or more. 11 years.
Yep.
You write about video games, you write about movies, you write about TV. Many folks might not know you're also an author. Got a couple of books under your belt as well. I have to ask, how the hell did you get into all of that? Like, what was your journey into this Forbes world where you've sort of branching out? Because you do YouTube now as well, right? So it's
everyone's got to do YouTube now to some extent, right? I start back in college. I was the film editor at the school paper there, and that was kind of when like blogging was first being invented, just kind of like writing something and instantly publishing it on the internet. So after that, I went to work for a new startup in Manhattan that eventually got acquired by Forbes, and They kind of kept a couple people on, and I was one of them because I was writing about video games, and that was starting to take off and become pretty popular on that site. So they kind of carried me over, and I've been writing about games for them ever since. And I mix in TV and movies and stuff, and then I kind of I've been doing my own thing on YouTube lately, and yeah, it's been quite a journey, but I've really loved it, and it's in a lot of ways a dream job, so I can't complain.
Yeah, I think a lot of people think that, you get to watch the latest movies in TV and play video games, and they kind of I think that for a lot of content creators, a lot of people on the outside think that that's it. Like, I think I've certainly discovered, and I know, Nick, you've been pressured by a few embargoes over the last couple of years as well. It's suddenly not all fun and glamorous from the inside, right? It can be quite highly pressured at times. Would you agree? Would you say?
It can be, for sure.
It's like, all three of these games are out the same day and you're one guy, and it's like, how do I do this as a content creator? It gets nuts. I can see a doggo in the background. Do we get to be introduced?
That's Evie. Evie, you want to be on the podcast? She's usually in my YouTube videos, so she's patrolling around at all times. Oh, hello.
It's all right.
I know Paul. I know Paul as the Fortnite guides guy. Like whenever I'm doing my Fortnite challenges, and they have some dumb challenges like deliver some sort of thing to Lazy Lake or to whatever, and I'll search up where the hell I find these things, and then usually in the top 3 search results I see Forbes, and it's one of Paul's guides things, and I'll look through, see the pictures he's posted, and go and complete the dumb challenge so I can get some other dumb skin or whatever in Fortnite. My God.
Glad to help. Yeah, I mean, the ultimate glory days were when Fortnite was like the first 1 or 2 years where I could get 1 million views on one of those guides in 2 days. It was kind of Wild West times for page views back then. They're still pretty good, but I mean, we're trying to be like a full service gaming section, so it's not just financial news about games. It's I do guides, I do reviews, I do news about everything. My main thing is I have this Destiny column that I write every day because I'm really involved in that community. And so it's kind of, whatever we have kind of expertise set. It doesn't have to just be one thing about gaming.
Yeah. I have to admit, I've got a bunch of friends that I'm sorry to say, you know who you are, very sadly, deeply addicted to Destiny 2. And they did send me some messages when they saw that you were joining us. I won't read all of them, but one in particular, I think they were referencing, is this the 25th or 26th time I'm quitting Is Paul quitting Destiny for good or something along those lines? So I think they probably read your comments.
To be fair, I'm never one of those people who quits Destiny. I am frequently critical of Destiny, and yet I'm never I'm done, I'm out of here, because I have seen a lot of streamers do that where they just get kind of so fed up with PvP or something, or I'm gonna go play Apex Legends, and then I'm gonna play Genshin Impact or whatever, and they just kind of ghost the game for a while. Where I don't know if I've ever like outright quit. I don't know. I get really salty, I guess, and I'm
You
like,
need to take
fix
a break.
this and this and this and this, and then they do, and I'm back, and you know,
I mean, because
works out.
it's a game. I have to admit, I've not. I played Destiny 1. I experienced the loot cave, but I just did not have any magic to hook me. And I get it is for a certain type of gamer. I'm not going to criticize those that love it because Bungie.
You're a Halo fan, right?
I am a big Halo fan, and you know, Bungie do shooting like nobody else, so I get the technical aspect, but you know, I just did not fall in love with that universe, and it just was so nonsensical. Like, and I get it, you know, games with friends are fun, but as a parent, and you know, with a job that is crazy busy a lot of the time,
it's a commitment.
it's too much of a commitment, and I like too many other games to have that be my one game. So I it just didn't hook me. But I know that, you know, I've got friends that bitch about
also
it all the
starting
time
out
and
in
still
like Destiny 1, like base vanilla launch was like, that was definitely when the game was at its worst, I think, because like the story was a mess. Like it was kind of all over the place for a while there, so it was kind of easier to bounce off back then, I think.
But I mean, you guys, Destiny 2 fans in general, I think there was quite a big and well received reveal. Was it last week or week before now?
It was about 2 weeks.
The Witch Queen or whatever
Witch
it is. What
Queen
was it?
expansion. Yeah, it's a big expansion coming in 6 months. Changes a lot of stuff, and people are pumped about it. Like if you're integrated kind of into the community, like you took those reveals to be kind of as big as they are. And I mean, the game is, you know, each new season has been more popular than the last one, so there is kind of a resurge in interest right now among the general community. So it's been cool to see as an avid player.
Yeah. I mean, the only game of that nature that I play, much to Nick's bemusement, because he doesn't like Sea of Thieves either. I love Sea of Thieves, right? I would say that is a very kind of like games as a service, seasons, all of that stuff. But you know, unfortunately, the last expansion I played, it really bummed me out. I just did not enjoy Pirate's Life at all. It really made me sad. And I got the offer yesterday to play some Sea of Thieves, and I was kind of like, I'll pass. I'm burned out. I'll wait for the next big thing before I jump back in. But yeah, so outside of, you know, Destiny and other things, let's move on to what we've actually been playing this week, because there's been a plethora of really good games that have dropped on multiple platforms. So, did you get a chance?
Sorry, if you hear squeaking, that is my dog.
I can hear the dog.
So, for audio listeners,
it's fine. Enjoy the squeaking.
I probably should have hidden her squeaky monkeys.
We've had we had Adam Ishmael from Microsoft on previously, and we had the dog come in, the daughter came in. It's fine. It's fine. I'm amazed that my children haven't interrupted this podcast yet, but that's why I locked my door. But yeah, so there's been a bunch of new games coming out, and I think I'll start with you, Nick. You actually got to review one of them
finally
right before you'd had it for a week and a half before it actually dropped on Game Pass.
Like 2 weeks. It was really good. And the funny thing is, it was like they sent us the code 2 weeks early for a game that's pretty short, so I had plenty of lead-in time to get the review out. But it's good. I'm glad I can finally talk about the Artful Escape, and that's what I've been playing. As you now know, John, you've played it. Unbelievable game. It's it's so good. Like,
I loved it.
And I was careful in my review because a game like that, like gamers, I know how they view games like that, and they don't take them seriously. So with my review, I wanted to be careful about how I sort of, I don't know, worded it.
Yeah.
Like,
I think
a game like that deserves attention. Like, it's such a good game, and I still reckon it's probably the most beautiful game I've ever seen. Like, It's just stunning. Like, you know, and I'm playing it and I'm looking at it, and I'm not, you know, super au fait with the tech side of things. And I'm sending a message to Johnny in Discord, and I'm like, that's not ray tracing, is it? It's really good space reflections, isn't it? Yeah. I'm like, a lot of people are going to see this and think this is like ray tracing because the reflections on it are just
Yeah,
unbelievable.
It looks gorgeous. I saw you arguing that it's actually prettier than Ori and the Will of the Wisps. Paul, have you played the Artful Escape at all? Have you had a chance to try it out yet? Or
I have not yet, but I agree. Everything I've seen from it looks totally gorgeous. So I'm looking forward to it. And if you recommend it,
too.
yeah,
Won't
I
take
definitely
a
want
lot
to
of
check
your
it out.
time.
Yeah.
It goes
Something
for
I could slot in for sure.
Yeah, it's just, and it's super simple. The focus with this game is on like you're soaking everything in. It's not about challenge. It's not about dying. It's not about high score. It's not. It's just you sit back and you hold down X and you just start playing your guitar and you just run through everything. It's so good
really
though.
good.
It's so good. I loved it.
I finished
really, really
it in one sitting. I advanced warned the wife. I was like, I'm taking the big TV in the lounge, the new TV. I was like, this is happening now. Go somewhere, And I tried to persuade her to sit with me because I was like, the music's really good. And as soon as the opening title, they had that kind of folk song, I was like, okay. And as a guitarist, it was just awesome. I think the focus of the game, from my perspective, is how it made you feel by the end, because it is a proper journey and the story is surprisingly good for such a short title. And 100%, it's a must play. My game of the year list is growing this year. I've played some of the best games I've played in ages this year, and it's gone right on that list. Like, it's so good.
It is. It's great.
But we've also had Tales of Arise, I think.
Yeah.
Which someone hilariously kept misspelling and missing out the I, so it was Tales of Arse.
Tales of Arse.
Probably not the game that we're all expecting.
A little different.
Different subject altogether. But what was the other one that's released this week? Come on, help me out. We had Tales of Arise.
I can't remember.
We had The Artful Escape, and there was another one that scored really, really high. Life is Strange: True Colors as well.
Yes.
So all seem to have done rather well. I have yet to play the other two, so I can't talk much about them, but they've all seemed to have reviewed positively, so definitely worth checking out. But aside from that, have you guys been playing anything else of interest, of note, apart from feeding your Destiny and Rocket League addictions?
No. My Rocket League and Fortnite,
Rocket League, yeah. So I guess I'm the opposite of you, where like I'm super involved in all these live service games. Like, that's kind of my main beat. So this past weekend, Destiny did a big PvP revamp of one of their modes, Trials of Osiris. So I've been kind of diving into that. I also caught up on Genshin Impact because they released a new patch pretty recently. And that game is doing live content really well. And so I spent some money to get one of the new characters. I've been leveling her up a bit, and kind of just exploring the new places they added to that. They add like a significant amount of content to that game every month and a half almost at this point. So there's always something to keep up with there. I dipped back into Avengers a little bit because they gave me a preview of their roadmap that they just released, and I'm still kind of finishing up Black Panther stuff with them. But yeah, these are all just games I've been playing for indefinite periods of time that I just keep circling back to because I'm just sort of the live service person at this point, I guess.
Do we know what's going on with Spider-Man in Avengers?
We know that he exists and he is still PlayStation exclusive, and that is still making everyone mad. Because the last thing that game needs right now is a console exclusive character. Like, it desperately needs more stuff to get people playing, and this is going to severely limit that, so people are not very amused. They would not give me any information about it. I do not think this is at all connected to Insomniac Spider-Man. I think it's completely its own iteration of the character. So we'll see what happens with that, but they're not ready to talk about it yet. It should be here by the end of the year. So
because it was technically meant to be there already, wasn't it?
It was. I mean, they're about 9 months behind the schedule with like everything.
It's almost like a pandemic's been happening or something. Yeah,
that is part of it. The other part is that I don't know if they really knew how to do a live service and how involved it would be to this extent. They're very much trying, and they've promised more content next year. So they're trucking.
Yeah, it's a weird one. I do wonder when, you might have a conversation and say, can we put that into a service like Game Pass, or can we put it into PS Now or something like that?
It should be in Game Pass some more players.
Because
they have a PlayStation marketing deal clearly with the Spider-Man thing, and they were in PS. They were in one of the PS things briefly.
Yeah.
But that would be a great Game Pass game, honestly. That would be perfect for it. But
yeah, you could dip in,
we'll see.
have some fun with friends for a little while, and dip out. But then, when I think about what's coming for the rest of the year, when we've got Back 4 Blood, we've got Halo Infinite, Forza Horizon 5. I wonder where it would fit in that space right now as the last sort of quarter of the year. Yeah, you're not going to get much of a look in. There's too much. There's too much coming. Too many good games. But yeah, so I guess the big news this week isn't about Xbox at all. So buckle up, XboxEra community. We're going to talk a little bit, just a smidge, about PlayStation and the Sony PlayStation Showcase, which was earlier this week. I've watched bits and pieces. I didn't sit down and watch the whole thing. I was too busy playing the Artful Escape that particular evening. I was like, I'll catch up at the end. So I've seen a lot of the announcements, a lot of the trailers. I understand that sentiment is very positive, but more because of the last 10 to 15 minutes of the show than the majority. But what did you guys see that really caught your eye or made you sit up and take notice out of everything that they revealed? I know the big things, but we'll get to them in a sec.
I caught the second half. It started at 6 a.m. for me.
Oof, that's all you needed.
Well, it turns out that I caught the better half of it. So, it was pretty. I mean, in terms of this is what I said in the Discord. In terms of what was shown, it was okay. In terms of what was announced, it was quite good. If that makes sense. Like by that, I mean, if you were to make a list of what was announced, it was a pretty big deal. Wolverine, Spider-Man, God of War, blah, blah, blah. But when you visibly saw it and what was shown and how it was shown, it was kind of, okay, CG, title logo, 2-second teaser. There wasn't a lot of meat on the bones to it. Again, me personally, I've said it before. I don't care about CG the way everyone seems to be so bothered by CG. I just like knowing stuff. I just like to know that Wolverine exists. I just like to know that something exists. I don't see why people get so upset personally about. Maybe it's because I'm old and I just don't care.
Time passes quickly for us now.
It's like, even though it was the worst kept secret in the industry, it was good to know that Fable exists. But then people got upset because it was a CG trailer. It's like, okay, but it's Playground. Playground's a pretty good studio. Safe to say that Fable will be at least a pretty good game. So there's no need to be that upset.
Yeah, a lot of the CG trailers as well act as recruitment. Like, okay, we're allowed to talk about this now. Come and join, public audience, but not always, but sometimes. Yeah,
like Insomniacs, I've said it 100 times, they're an incredible studio. So
they've definitely proven their worth, right? At this point.
That's right. Yeah. So the fact that Wolverine was only CG, it's like, okay, big deal. Like, we know Insomniac. So it's pretty safe to say that Wolverine may have a third-person over-the-shoulder camera.
First-person Wolverine with just the claws.
Can you imagine how janky it would feel?
If I had only one hope for Wolverine, and I doubt it's going to happen given the target audience and how Sony does things, my hope for Wolverine is that it's high on gore. Like,
oh yeah, it should definitely be right.
Like, that is the one question I want to know: is it going to be M-rated? And like, in the past, so like Fox gave us Logan, super hard R Wolverine. Activision gave us that other Wolverine game that was M-rated based on a PG-13 movie. So like maybe, but I mean, we're now in the Disney era, so we don't really know what Disney's mandates are for that kind of thing.
Yeah,
I would imagine it's going to be R. It is just so hard for me to imagine a Wolverine brawler with no gore.
Yeah,
with the graphical capabilities we have, it wouldn't even like really make sense. Like given his base superpowers tearing people apart.
Yeah, I'd love to see Insomniac's take, but I worry how much influence Sony has on what Insomniac does. But I'd love to see Insomniac's take on a hack and slash game. Yeah, love it. Like
with Sony, like, does it even matter? Like, I mean, God of War is clearly M-rated. Like, I feel like this would be less Sony caring and more Disney caring. Because like, I don't think Sony would have a problem necessarily with because I said this in the article, like it's not like M-rated games are the same as R-rated movies where, you know, R rating your superhero movie, you'll make like 40% less money or something. But like M-rated games, it's like Call of Duty, it's like GTA, all the most popular games are M-rated. So
parents don't pay as much attention to the rating of a game versus a movie.
Yeah. So I'm hopeful that will be the case, but I would like them to kind of say that sooner rather than later for sure.
Yeah. I don't know, because like I said, I personally have always loved Insomniac, whether it's the Ratchets, like I fell in love with the PS3 Ratchets. That was my introduction to Ratchet and Clank, Tools of Destruction. Yeah. In Sunset Overdrive, unbelievable. They're just, I mean, outside of like Fuse, their record is basically flawless. Like,
you don't talk about Fuse, it's okay.
Yeah. And really, EA's probably to blame for Fuse, if we're being honest.
That got committed to death, let's be honest.
Oh, Overstrike looked great, which is what Fuse started as. Yeah. It started as a game called Overstrike, and it looked almost like Overwatch before Overwatch, at least that initial trailer. But yeah, like, and I think that's a lot of the controversy now is over, oh, well, hold on, when Microsoft shows CG, journalists crack it and everyone cracks it because it's CG, but then when Sony shows CG, it's okay. And I understand that argument, but I think the crux of the issue is most of Sony's studios have built up a level of, I don't know if trust is the right word, but like they've built up a certain cachet or a reputation where, okay, Santa Monica's only going to show CG, but Sony Santa Monica make great games. So I don't think you have to stress that they're deceiving anyone with a CG trailer. Do you know what I mean?
The God of War show, like, wasn't that mostly kind of gameplay footage? I thought that was specifically
God of War was. I'm just using Santa Monica as an example because of their reputation. Like, they've got Santa Monica, I don't think I've ever made a bad game, now that I think about it.
No.
I mean even Ascension, which was viewed as a bad God of War game, was still a pretty good game anyway in isolation.
I think recency helps too, because like with Insomniac, it's like Spider-Man 1 just came out. So like, yeah, we can get a CGI trailer for Spider-Man 2 and like, you know, how much different do you think it's going to be than the other game that was well received? Yeah. So like, I guess it's a little different because like you brought up Fable, and I just, it's kind of a different category to me because like Playground is great, but this is not the usual genre. And also we haven't seen a Fable game since, well over a decade ago. And we have no real idea how that's going to manifest. Or like, a Starfield, I guess we can have a bit of faith in Bethesda, but that's a brand new IP, so we don't really know what that's going to look like. It was like in-engine footage or whatever, but so I guess with that kind of stuff, you don't quite have that baseline level of like, oh, well, this is a sequel to a game I already liked that came out 2 years ago, and so I think that's kind of the fundamental difference. And if these games start rolling out and they're all great, then going forward, then you'll have that trust. But it's all of the stuff is so new in a lot of ways. It's a little hard to know what to make of it, I think.
Yeah, that's right. Just most of Microsoft Studios outside of maybe Coalition, like Gears 4 and Gears 5, like if they were to do a CG trailer for Gears 6, it's going to be pretty similar to Gears 5. So it's safe to say that I'd be surprised if people got upset at a CG Gears 6 trailer. Like, how different from Gears 5 do you think it's going to be?
Yeah, I think there's a good argument you made there. It's about consumer trust. It's about knowing, what you've played from them before. And I've seen a lot of the reaction on, places like Resetera and indeed our own forums, about how, the media does one thing when Microsoft does it, but Sony gets treated differently and there's media bias and all that sort of thing. I don't think that's always the case. Like, I have no doubt that there's going to be journalists out there that absolutely prefer the PlayStation as their platform or prefer PC as their platform, and will react in a very human way like most of us would, right? I don't necessarily agree with it, but do you think, this is an interesting question for you, Paul, because I think you've written a bunch over the years about Xbox back in 2013, all of the mistakes they made, the road they've taken. I think you did one a few weeks back.
I've seen the receipts, Paul.
Seen a lot of those headlines lately. Yeah.
Right, but you
surfacing.
I remember watching one of your videos or reading one of your articles, or both, about how you were suddenly like, I've got my Xbox Series X, I've got my PlayStation 5. I'm suddenly realizing that, okay, I haven't got a shiny new UI and it all looks exactly the same, but it all suddenly works and there's a lot of quality of life here, and I'm suddenly realizing this is far easier to play with. And, I think it's fair to say the nutshell I'm trying to get at is at the time, yes, the headlines can sometimes be framed in ways to get people to click on them. That's the hustle, guys. Respect it. But you're often usually on the money at that point in time. But you've been fairly critical of Microsoft in the past, and you've been fairly critical of Sony since the start of this gen, right?
Yeah. So this is where I would kind of draw the difference between like bias and preference at any given time, like, because I think as long as you're kind of just upfront about how you're feeling about a given console split at any given time, then that's all people can really ask of you. I think pretending to be some like unbiased beacon of innocence in regard to all this stuff is pointless. And like I spent many years, especially at the beginning of the Xbox One lifespan, just lambasting Microsoft for like, why would you bundle this with Kinect? Why did you do all this stuff with the disc rights? And like, I mean, they were forced into changing a lot of that because it wasn't just me, like it was so poorly received, like it really hurt sales at the beginning there. And it wasn't really until kind of we got the One X and, then kind of refocusing that whole gen on power and then starting the slow process of acquiring studios that it really started to shift. And so now I'm kind of in a state where my own personal view has shifted to like, oh, Microsoft learned a whole bunch of lessons from that terrible launch last generation. Whereas Sony sold so many PS4s that they were just like, I don't know, what if we just do almost exactly the same thing and like don't really do that many as quality of life upgrades or go as hard as Microsoft with things like smart delivery, or like they haven't really upgraded PS Now to be remotely close to Game Pass, things like that. So I'm splitting time between both systems, and I am still on PS5 a lot because of Destiny. That was just how I started playing there. So, but like anything that's third party at this point that I'm not like getting an explicit PS5 code for, like I'm probably playing on Xbox because of many reasons, like all of the quality of life reasons I mentioned. The fact that it's I don't have to worry about save transfers and patch copying and like all these just kind of small like things that are keep bothering me about PS5. This a bit like the difference this generation is that while all of these controversies hurt Xbox One for 2013, PS5 is still just selling just a metric crap ton. So it's like it's not quite the same level of like disaster. It's more kind of like small annoyances, or maybe they seem complacent or something like that. But I've tried to focus, a good amount of praise on all Microsoft has done this generation and how impressed I have been with the moves they have made. I think there's still a lot of stuff that remains to be seen. Like I think all the acquisitions they made sound great on paper. It's just
we're all still waiting.
I can't really know. I can't really know until I have these games in my hand. And like I assume most of them will be pretty good. Like I have faith in those developers, but in like Sony showing the slate from these developers they've cultivated for 20 years, and then Microsoft with all this new stuff, it's like I hope it works out, but it seems like less of a guarantee, and like nothing is really quite
there's stuff to be proven for sure. I mean,
and that goes back to what we were saying before. Like if Compulsion comes out now and shows a CG trailer of their game, I can understand why people will go, well, why did you show CG? Because Compulsion's last two projects have been We Happy Few and Contrast. So people are going to be like, oh, is this CG trailer just kind of there to hype everyone up, but the game's going to be meh? Or like that's where it comes from. Like we don't really know much about Compulsion, like at all.
It's a weird situation to be in, and I have to give props. I mean, I think we've always given props to Sony and PlayStation. Like there is a level of quality that all PlayStation first party releases seem to just hit. Like a level of extra polish that Microsoft until recently kind of stumbled on quite a lot. We had so many games, some from flagship franchises like Master Chief Collection that just did not arrive as they should have arrived. But then I feel like the turning point is sort of happening this year, with Flight Sim on consoles, with Psychonauts 2, All eyes. Let's be fair. I think Forza Horizon 5. No one is batting an eyelid about or worrying about the quality of that game. It looks impeccable.
Yeah. And there you go. That's
Halo
the
Infinite
example.
is a bit. That's the one that's causing a lot of worry, right? Because it's clearly seen the biggest impact from COVID development. It's and we just don't know enough yet.
No.
We'll talk about some of the bits Halo related because there is a tech test coming, so we'll talk about that later on in the show. But before we move on from Sony, a couple of things I want to talk about. We did see some Xbox first party games at the Sony show.
Xbox was there.
Yeah,
they were there.
Holding up with Ghostwire Tokyo, which I liked the new trailer. I did watch it. It gave us a little bit more of a feel about what the game actually was. We actually got to see the character I think we were playing as this time. But I just wanted to touch on Deathloop. I feel a bit sorry for Deathloop, and I feel a bit sorry for Arcane in this timeline because
it's a very weird circumstance.
I feel like no one wants to buy that game on PlayStation. I know that sounds really bizarre, right? Because it looks great.
No, you're probably right.
Right, but I will not. My eyebrows will not raise in surprise if I read terrible sales after when it goes live and it's sold bugger all. I will not be surprised. It feels like either the PlayStation community doesn't care about it because they and call me naive or silly, but it's almost like, it's owned by Xbox, we're not going to play it, or they're just not interested in first-person shooters, or it's just not lighting anyone's world on fire, or they've seen too much of it. I don't know.
Don't forget, Arcane's reputation is that they show stuff that looks cool, but then no one ultimately buys.
Yeah.
That's their reputation. Like, good, bad, indifferent.
Always
whatever.
critically
I
acclaimed.
Thought,
no one actually plays it.
Like I thought Dishonored was pretty good.
Prey?
I love Dishonored, Prey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they're just generally not massive commercial hits. Throw in the whole, Xbox owns them, it's going to be on Game Pass in a year. Look,
is it $60 or $70? I didn't look.
70, I think.
I'm not
is it 70?
Sure. I think it's 70.
I'm not
because
sure.
it's PS5 only, isn't it? It's not
right. It is, but then it's owned by well, that's another thing working against it for sure.
Yeah, that's right. Look, you know my opinion on this, John. As soon as Microsoft acquired Bethesda, those contracts should have been ripped up. I don't care what the cost is. I don't care whatever those contracts should have been ripped up for the betterment of the game, for the betterment of the studio. It would have been cleaner. It would have been better if they just said, "Look, we own these guys now. These games are on Xbox. Bad luck." That's just my. I'm sure that was never going to happen, but
I believe your catchphrase is "be a prick." That's your.
Just be pricks.
I mean, when you spend $7 billion on something, you want to be able to have that license to some extent, right?
That's right. You've already spent $7.5 billion. What's an extra 50 mil to make sure those games, seriously, because I'll tell you right now, Sony would have done the same thing. Sony in the same situation would have turned around and said, "Sorry, Xbox fans, these games are PlayStation games now. Bad luck."
Yeah. Well,
that's what they've done.
It can be expensive negotiating your way out of a contract, but
they might just not have thought it was worth the fight, I guess. And then they're just like, all right, well, everything from here on out is going to be Xbox exclusive, which is kind of what it seems like for the most part. So.
It will be.
Yeah.
And speaking of Xbox and PlayStation exclusivity, the KOTOR remake.
Yeah, I think that's probably the biggest topic.
Now, to me, that's where I think the media bias people maybe have a point on the KOTOR remake, because Microsoft got absolutely drilled for Rise of the Tomb Raider, and this KOTOR remake is exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
And I'm not seeing any articles on how terrible Sony are for doing that one.
Yeah. I'm just very confused about the whole thing, honestly. Like, a combination of BioWare's not even remotely involved in this, at all, which we learned, and then it being PlayStation exclusive, and then it being a remake, but we didn't see any
gameplay.
We don't have no idea what level it's being brought up to for this remake. Yeah. There's such a wide range it could be. Is combat changing? Because it's turned
they're talking about
the base storylines
updated gameplay. aren't they?
Yeah, what does that mean? We need more information. So that was the thing where that was like we were saying earlier, like the announcement was bigger than the reveal, whereas like that's a big deal to hear about, but like
correct.
I gotta get some more information about that because that kind of left me wondering things on a whole bunch of fronts there, and I'm very kind of confused about how that project's gonna work.
Because Aspire don't have the reputation Insomniac have to be able to get away with a CG trailer.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just have ports. They had like ports of stuff. So like, how do they translate that? You're like, oh, this is the biggest project we've ever done, but all they've done are ports. So what level is this going to be at?
Yes.
Like in the end, that's what I want to know. So
yeah,
it's an odd one, and a lot of the Xbox community, obviously, KOTOR is a loved OG Xbox
synonymous
exclusive
with the OG
title.
Xbox.
So the other question I have is, come on, this wouldn't have been Aspire goes straight to PlayStation and says make us an offer. Microsoft have got to have been part of that discussion, and I am very curious at what point they were like, yeah, okay, we're just going to walk away and leave this, because I mean, speaking personally, I don't give two shits. I've played KOTOR a bunch. I have zero interest in probably returning to it. You know, at some point,
I never played the original one.
Not even with updated gameplay.
Well, I liked the gameplay of the old game. Like, you know, like, what are you going to update here? You just make the turns feel a bit faster, because sometimes it dragged out a bit.
That's what I'm wondering. Yeah,
there's too much unknown. But I have to wonder how, from an optics point of view, how Microsoft let that happen. Like, it
does not seem like the best idea in the world, particularly with how well something like, you know, the Mass Effect stuff did.
Yeah,
you would think this would be kind of a prime moment to be like, to, you know, resurface something else that's classic like that in a similar genre from a similar company originally.
Yeah.
So that I agree with you that I don't really know why that wasn't, you know, or how much Sony would have shelled out to get Microsoft to walk away from that.
I was about to say
kind of wild.
It could be that Sony just put up an amount that Microsoft didn't deem worthy of worrying about, because you have to guess Microsoft has seen something of the game.
Yeah. There wouldn't have been a pure Sony and Aspire conversation. There would have been.
That's right. And
something.
Maybe Microsoft saw it, saw how it looked, saw what Sony were putting up to lock it down, and went, we've got it in 4K on our console right now. Yeah, we'll let it go.
It's still on PC, right? So it's not even.
Yeah.
It's just
so
really
like theoretically, you know, if Xbox players also have their gaming PC, they can still play it. So
yeah, well, with Xbox backwards compatibility, I think it runs, is it 4K on Series X and One X?
I think so. I think it was an
it's like
game,
native 4K and blah 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 blah. I've never played the original game, so I don't know. Right. So it could. What? No, I've never played KOTOR.
You should.
I only got, so like I missed it at the time, and then like 6 or 7 years later, I tried to go back and play it on like OG Xbox, and I'm like, this is too dated. I can't. Like, I had no fond memories associated with it, so I'm like, So I'm actually really looking forward to this, because this will be my first time through, and like I know the whole plot line at this point. Like, I wasn't able to avoid spoilers for 10 years, but so I'm actually excited for this, because I haven't played it in full, but I'm curious how it's going to look and feel for sure.
I mean, that's the big thing for me on a personal level, is I very rarely have time for RPGs as it is, right? And I kind of resent secretly how many games are just turning into RPG light as it is. Like, it's probably why I loved Artful Escape so freaking much.
Like, one sitting.
I finished it in an evening, and I loved every moment, and it didn't pad a single thing. But I think the biggest thing out of all of this is it's the 20-year anniversary, Microsoft. It's the 20-year anniversary that you've been trumpeting about for all year. With all of these grand plans, and you're probably going to do an XO 2021 show, maybe, at the end of the year.
Probably.
What perfect... Hey, everyone, do you remember that game you played 20 years ago on ROG console? Because we're all celebrating it. Here's an exclusive remake. But no, like, it just feels like such a stupid oversight. And maybe you're right, Nick.
It's a missed opportunity, for sure.
It just feels weird.
I don't know. But one remaster I am going to play, and that's Alan Wake. Oh, boy.
Yes.
I can't wait for that one. Yeah. Alan Wake was one of the most underrated games of all time. I absolutely... come on, man. Alan Wake was No. Alan Wake is just, I love that game so much. I got the full 1500 on 360 and just, oh man, the thought of playing that at like 4K 60 and ray tracing and all the improved models and man, I can't wait.
Wrong. I will definitely revisit it, right? Probably.
I will.
But I'm
I'll
not
play it all
like
again.
I'm not like
It sounds like it. Yeah.
It's not like the best game ever for me, and
No, I'm not saying it's the best game ever. I'm saying it's the most underrated. Like
It's
that game.
I feel like that's pretty highly rated among most people, isn't it? Maybe
Well,
not at the time, but certainly now I feel like it's like pretty acclaimed.
It's garnered. Its reputation has grown.
Cult classic. Yeah.
Yes, its reputation has grown since it came out. Like if you think about it, right, the whole third person over the shoulder thing. There were games that existed obviously before Sony started doing it, like Resident Evil 4 and Gears and all that. But once Uncharted 2 came along, post Uncharted 2, and then Sony just put all their chips and went, yep, third person over the shoulder, single player narrative. Like, had Alan Wake come out now, it would have got more attention than it did.
Probably, I mean, in a lot of ways, it kind of feels like a precursor to The Last of Us a little bit, like especially that genre to a certain extent, I think.
But, kind of
less combat heavy, but
it's a little more survival horror-y.
Yeah,
Alan Wake, limited ammo.
Maybe the clicker parts of The Last of Us,
and you've got your batteries to worry about. And you've got to manage the batteries in your torch. Oh, it was man. I love Alan Wake is so good.
Well, I'm glad you're pleased. And it sounds like, because I think the Epic deal that they mentioned, they'd got two games publishing with Epic. One was a remake and one was a sequel. I think they used the wording in the same franchise, so it's pretty bang to rights that there's going to be an Alan Wake 2, right?
That'd be great.
And it sounds like it'll be multi-platform as well, which should please everybody, I think, that loves that franchise.
It's just funny though, seeing another game synonymous with Xbox at Sony show. Like, we had KOTOR, we had Alan Wake, Deathloop, a first-party game, Ghostwire. Like, there was a lot of Xbox at this Sony show when you sit back and have a look at it. But
it did
was
feel
funny
that way. So outside of that, I think the other thing that everyone was very pleased to have seen at the end was obviously God of War Ragnarok. We actually saw some very solid looking gameplay footage. I've seen a lot of
very familiar gameplay.
I've seen a lot of people commenting about it. It didn't feel like, if you looked at the Horizon Forbidden West footage, looked like a really good step up, and then people are looking at the God of War footage and thinking, why doesn't it look as epically increased in terms of fidelity, resolution, effects, textures, blah blah blah?
Okay,
it still looks great, so I don't see why anyone's fussed.
I need to be careful how I word this, because this might sound controversial. Because I said this about Forbidden West when it was first shown, and one of the first things I said was that Forbidden West kind of just looks like a PS4 game running with a pro patch. Which, but that's not necessarily a derogatory comment. Like, it's more a testament to how great looking those PS4 games were. Like, God of War Ragnarok looks great, but it also looks like the PS4 game if it were running with a dedicated Pro or PS5 patch. Again, like,
I suppose it's cross-gen,
still great.
right? So
and it is, and they both are PS4 games. So, like,
they're based on the same engine, and like, I mean, that's exactly how I view it too. Is where it's like, those were two of the best looking games from that generation. So like, it is not surprising that, a couple of years later, built on the same engine using a lot of the same tech, they look similar, only now they're 60 FPS or whatever. Like,
that's right.
That to me is not a huge surprise. And like, I don't know what kind of sweeping transformative change could have even really happened over that period of time.
People expect that for some reason.
Generations don't really do that as much as they used to. Like, every time the gap gets kind of smaller and smaller and smaller.
That's right.
And especially last time, because we had PS4 Pro and Xbox One X as like a mid step, and then we have another leap. And sometimes it's more significant than others. Like, you play like Xbox One X Cyberpunk or something on Xbox Series X. You're like, okay, this looks a little last gen and significantly worse than PC. Whereas like God of War making that transition, I don't think it has quite the same like noticeability. So
no,
I don't really buy into the like that didn't look as good as it should have or whatever kind of argument
it just
here.
looks like
'Cause it
another
already
great
looked
entry
great.
into the franchise. Enjoy it.
Like they looked amazing to me. Again, it's just a testament to what they did on PS4 more so than knocking what it is on PS5. Like in the end, they are PS4 games. Like they're coming out on PlayStation 4. So there's only so much, and like we're hitting, like Paul alluded to, we're hitting the point of diminishing returns now. There's only so much improvement we're going to get. And you brought up a really good point about the Pro and the One X. They've made the gap even smaller because we already got our 4Ks and our 60 FPS modes on those consoles. So what more can the PS5 and the Series X do?
Faster load times.
That's right. When they're being held down by those previous consoles. Like that's why everyone went goo goo gaga over Ratchet, because Ratchet was made for the PS5. So there's things in Ratchet you see that you don't in God of War or Horizon.
Yeah.
But like I played Horizon Zero Dawn the other day. I moved it over to my internal and played it on PS5 at 60. And man, like Halo 4 in the Master Chief Collection, it could pass for like a more recent game.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's tons of games like Ghost of Tsushima. You can do that with Spider-Man. Like all of the games that got 60 FPS updates for the most part.
Yeah.
You know, they feel like PS5 games to a certain extent.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's going to be like this for a while because you're not going to see Sony leave behind 150 million PS4 players for at least 3 or 4 years, if that, like for most of their games. So that is going to keep happening kind of indefinitely into the future. And then at the tail end, we'll do this all over again with the PS6 and, you know, it'll just keep going.
Carry on and on we go, round and round. So, I mean, that was generally the biggest news of the week, right? I think we've covered most of the only other thing I saw some controversy over was the GTA 5 remastered delayed trailer where it kind of just looks like the PC version. It wasn't really
I'm so tired. I'm so tired of
GTA. It's been 10 years. 10 years.
Like, I get it. You sold 150 million copies and people are going to buy like 50 million more. But I wrote about this today. I'm like, even Rockstar can't make like a selling point for this. They're like, some of the cars go faster because we can like render faster. Like, they are genuinely like out of, you know, they're like, just buy it. Please, we know you're going to buy it. Just buy it. So,
it feels really
the only trailer of that show that is underwater in likes, dislikes, because everyone's just like so sick of it.
Yeah.
On YouTube, it's kind of funny.
They've milked it. I mean, they need a new word for milked, but
it's the new Skyrim essentially, but probably even worse. Like in terms of what it's, because you know, Skyrim wasn't harvesting money from microtransactions from an online mode for a decade. So
that's right.
I'm beyond tired of the current GTA 5 remaster situation.
It'd be nice to see a Red Dead Redemption 2.
Yeah, that's a game that could really
60.
Use it. Yeah, for sure.
Lovely.
But that's not making them as much money. So
I'm annoyed.
Is like
I'm annoyed I didn't get to see Infamous there.
Yeah, I think you felt that it was going to make an appearance, right? Infamous at the same time.
Well, look, okay, so the only thing I got told with 100% confirmation, and I showed the DM on Twitter, was that God of War was going to be there. That was the only thing that my source was like, well, God of War got pulled from the Deathloop show. It was meant to be there. Like that trailer we saw has been ready for months. But as we know, they record these shows modularly. So they record everything in bits and pieces, and then they chop and change right up until the last minute.
Bring back live events.
I assure you they respond to leaks too. But then I received a whole bunch of info, which I said I can't get a lot of this stuff confirmed, which is why I didn't post any of it. The only reason I posted Infamous was because I really liked the Infamous series and I was really hoping we'd see it there. And the funny thing is, I've already seen people giving me crap about Infamous. It's like, did you read the tweet? I was like, I can't confirm this. Please take it with a massive grain of salt. Maybe it's going to be there. And people are like, you said Infamous was going to be there.
You never know. I mean, it could have gotten pulled easily. So.
Oh, well, that's what I was told. I was told it was pulled. It was originally supposed to be opening the show. and it got pulled.
They had they probably figured they had enough stuff to be like, all right, well, let's just save that for another time.
Well, what it is Sony loves their surprises. Sony knows the theater of video game marketing. They understand. I'm not going to say console wars. I mean, yes, there is an aspect to that, but Sony gets the theater of video game marketing. They always have. They've done it since. I mean, I'm old enough to remember all the PlayStation 1 marketing, and trust me, Sony's been doing it from day dot. And from what I was told, Infamous was pulled and Wolverine was put in because that was the big
probably
surprise.
A good call.
Yeah, because Wolverine is miles away. Like Wolverine ain't happening anytime soon. I don't think they originally wanted to show Wolverine this early, but they wanted their surprise. Like I got told that there'd be something Marvel there that's new. But again, none of it.
That was one thing I heard nothing about. So that was a total surprise to me. Yeah.
Just Marvel new. I heard Twisted Metal Black. I heard what else did I get told might be there? Something from which I don't want to say.
Anything from Naughty Dog besides this pointless Uncharted 4 remaster?
No. The From thing, I don't want to say what I was told because I think that thing is still happening, and I don't know if I'm allowed to say it yet.
Yeah.
But From was supposed to be there. I got told, what was the other one that didn't happen? Oh, there was one more. There was one other thing I said might be there, and it didn't end up. Oh, Crash Bandicoot. I got told Crash might be there, and that wasn't there. And that's why I kept saying to people that I've heard so much stuff and can't confirm.
It can't all be there.
Yeah.
God of War was the only one where my source was like, nah, God of War is 100% there. So that's the one I went with. I said God of War is going to be there.
Yeah.
Infamous was more hope. Having said that, my source reiterated, Infamous is coming back. It's just, it wasn't at this show.
See,
so
that would surprise me because it's same guys that made Ghost of Tsushima, right?
Yeah. I don't think Sucker Punch is making Infamous though.
Because I was going to say, like,
I don't believe
that's what I thought it had to be, because they have to be making Ghost of Tsushima too. Like,
exactly.
Would absolutely believe that. So who would be making Infamous?
I don't know. Maybe they're doing it through XDev, through a third party. Kind of like how Microsoft did Crackdown through Sumo.
When they showed the Spider-Man trailer at first, when like there was like a crackle of electricity, I'm like, oh my god, it's Infamous.
It's Infamous, that's right. But it's funny, I saw someone on Twitter, they pointed out, because I've been getting a lot of DMs about Sly Cooper, because I was stupid enough to open my big mouth about Sly, which I regret massively now, because I get DMs almost daily asking me for Sly Cooper information. I'm like, guys, wow. I don't know anything more. Oh, like the Xbox fans were bad with DMs, like
about the shrimp.
Yeah.
I wonder if I should say what I've been getting DMs about. What I've been getting DMs about. No, I'm not going to say it. Okay, but with the PlayStation fans, I've been getting so many DMs about Sly Cooper, and I'm like, guys, I know nothing more than apparently it's in development. That's all I know. That there's apparently
you're
a
going
new
to
Sly
upset
Cooper
people.
in
You should save this and let me press the button. But I think you've got more later.
No. I mentioned it I stupidly mentioned it on Reddit. Like there was a 4chan. Yeah, that's right. Apparently there was a 4chan leak on Reddit about Sly Cooper, and I read it and I replied to it, and I was like, oh look, for what it's worth, I've heard that there might be a Sly Cooper too, and oh my god, there's been articles now, and I'm getting all these DMs. I'm like, oh, why did I say anything?
Sly Cooper information source on the internet.
Oh no. And I'm like, why did I say anything? Like I thought it was just some in passing comment. I didn't think it would be taken as some sort of confirmation. That
You've
Sly
been on
Cooper's
the internet, right?
People really love Sly Cooper. So.
Oh man, but I don't know if you noticed. Apparently, I missed this. It must have been at the start. There was like a live action trailer thing during Sony's show.
It was very weird. Yes.
Someone's broken down this. Oh, apparently it was very fart sniffy. Allegedly.
I thought it was cool. It was just it was like PS1, PS2 era Sony weird ass shit.
Yeah. See, I used to like those ads.
Yeah,
I used to really like those ads. I think it's funny, when I used to do my top 5 and I did the top 5 video game ads, I actually had that PlayStation 2 mountain ad as one of my favorite ads of all time. Do you remember it? Where everyone's trying to climb to the top of a human mountain. to get the PlayStation 2. Really good at.
It's just live
And
footage of
someone
trying to get a
broke the-
PS5 now, though, isn't it? Is it just-
Someone broke down that trailer, and there was like a Sly Cooper tease in there. There was an infamous tease in there. I'm like, oh, good. So at least Sony is teasing it to help me out. But yeah, it's just the Sly Cooper fans. I had no idea. The only Sly Cooper game I've played was that one on PS3 that came out.
Never played
They gave it with Plus. So I was like, cool, I'll jump into Sly Cooper. Yeah, it was okay. But, oh, man, ever since I opened my big mouth about Sly, oh, my God, I've been copying it like relentlessly. It's unbelievable. It's just, yeah.
Well, yeah,
I had no
more
idea.
fool you. So I think that's the gist of everything in the Sony show. The only other thing that's worth mentioning, newsworthy, acquisition season. I think a lot of Xbox fans, you know, let's rewind back to their E3 show. Man, the last 2 or 3 days right up to that E3 show from Microsoft,
crazy.
Like the stories went from mildly intriguing to downright stupid.
Bonkers.
It's like, oh, there's going to be 7 million acquisitions. And we you know, we were hearing, Nick and I were hearing names across. I'm sure, Paul, you've probably read a number of these rumors that were flying left, right, and center. And it seems like since that point, since that huge plume of smoke where there apparently was no fire, Microsoft have been sitting on the bench for this season of acquisitions because Sony have been quite active. The latest one being Firesprite. Which when I looked at it and I remember reading it was like some sort of meme. It was like they
rebought Liverpool.
Yeah, they bought bought Psygnosis back in the day.
Yeah, they bought Psygnosis, turned them into Studio Liverpool, shut them down. That most of them then created Firesprite.
And now they bought
Firesprite.
It's like circle's complete.
It'd be like Lionhead. It'd be like 70% of Lionhead making a new studio, and then Microsoft goes and buys them back again.
It's so strange.
Basically, yeah.
But,
basically,
yeah. I mean, I think a lot of Xbox fans, unfortunately, Microsoft have dug themselves a big old hole here, right, by announcing acquisitions at shows. The Bethesda publisher acquisition changed the industry, arguably, because no one thought that a scale of a purchase of that scale would happen, and it has. So now there's all sorts of things being thrown around. But do you think they're going to stay on the bench for long? Do you think we're going to see some more big moves from Microsoft this year?
I don't think they'll be on the bench for long. No. Yeah. The thing is, like
yes.
Please continue. But, everyone's leaning forward now.
No. Like, it's weird to explain. Like, Microsoft is going for bigger fish. Like, and Microsoft has a lot more regulatory eyes on them. And when Microsoft does a deal, it has more scrutiny. So they're not going to. It's a bit trickier for Microsoft to just up and go acquire someone. And like there's other machinations into that. There's licensing issues depending on who they're buying. There's like, look at this, right? I think I've mentioned this before, and I hope I'm not saying something I'm not meant to, but Microsoft, did anyone not wonder why Sony out of nowhere bought Insomniac after a 20+ year relate? They bought Naughty Dog, they bought all these other studios, never bothered buying Insomniac, yet all of a sudden, in those last couple of years, they're like,
wiped. Yeah.
Well, now we better buy Insomniac. Did anyone not wonder why? Like, Microsoft was sniffing around Insomniac, and Insomniac, Sony wasn't going to lose their Spider-Man studio. I can tell you that much right now. But at the same time, 230 million. What, you don't think Microsoft would have offered more than that?
Yeah.
For Insomniac? Like, I think what happened was Insomniac probably would have preferred to be under Sony. That relationship was already established. They knew each other inside out. Not that they didn't get along with Microsoft. I'm sure they did. But they like, Sony is like that cousin that, like, that's part of the furniture. Like, most people probably already thought they were a Sony first-party studio up until Sunset Overdrive came along. Yeah. So my suspicion is that they probably took less from Sony than Microsoft were offering, just to maintain that relationship that they knew, they felt comfortable with, whatever the case may be.
I think that's a reasonable supposition.
Yeah. But the reason I talk about Insomniac is because that's another spanner you throw into the works with acquisitions. What if that could have happened with Ninja Theory? What if Microsoft came sniffing around? Because remember, Ninja Theory is similar to Insomniac, pretty much always done Sony stuff. They did Heavenly Sword, which I really liked. Hellblade was originally PlayStation only. So that's another factor that you have to take into these acquisitions. What if one of their targets is someone that's had a relationship with Sony or someone else, and they realistically prefer to be with them if given the option?
Yeah.
All of a sudden,
Microsoft is going to buy Sony Santa Monica. That's what you're saying. That's what.
Yeah, mate, I'm sure they'd love to. I'm sure they'd absolutely love to. But yeah, I don't think Microsoft's going to be on the bench for long. I just think that the stuff they're doing is probably going to take a bit longer.
It doesn't really matter. They don't have to announce it at a show. If they announce some huge mega deal, it's going to be the biggest story of the week.
Yeah,
no matter when
it was
lands.
A blog post.
Yeah,
Bethesda was a blog post.
Yeah,
exactly.
I don't know if they're going to do the whole... They're probably shying away from the whole announce stuff at a show thing. I don't know, but the fact that Bethesda was a blog post would indicate that going forward they might not save everything for a show, which is probably the right way to do it, because if the news is big enough, it sells itself. It doesn't need a show.
Yeah. I mean, there's also enough shows to go around where it's they could go to E3 or Gamescom or the Game Awards or TGS. There's enough shows now where if they really wanted to, that they could make it a big thing if they did. I mean, who knows? Maybe they will at TGS at this rate. But that's I'm very curious. December or something.
December? Wow.
Is it that far away?
I might be wrong.
October.
Is it that early?
I thought it was coming soon, within the next month.
Yeah,
Maybe I'm wrong.
I thought
wait. Well, last year was December.
Ah.
So I don't know when this year's is.
Yeah. I thought
last year was December 10th. This year is not a big date yet, I don't think.
Okay.
But it has always been December.
Oh wow.
Okay.
Who knew?
So
I didn't know that. I thought that was Game Awards season.
Right.
Yay.
Yeah.
So I guess it's just a case of waiting to see what happens next at this point. But yeah, I agree that I don't think Microsoft, A, they don't need to announce anything at shows anymore, but B, they have, I think a lot of people are expecting this stuff, and I think Miles Dompier came up with the right take right before E3 where he said, is it really the right time when you're shining a light on our new Bethesda brothers and sisters and our relationship to suddenly start harping on about the next new, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever metaphor you want to attach to it. It felt weird to do, and as soon as I read that, I was like, yeah, they're not going to announce any acquisitions at this show. That's not happening.
Yeah,
because it would leave me, if I was Bethesda, it would leave me with a really bad taste in my mouth. What are we? A trophy, and you put me in the cabinet, and then you get the next trophy, and you put us in.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Xbox fans, if they're waiting to see Microsoft make moves, I don't think they're not going to make moves. I just think it will be just suddenly you'll wake up on a Tuesday morning again, and boom.
And you'll see
they've made a lot of moves, and we're still just waiting for the fruition of those moves. So it's not like they haven't already racked up a ton of huge acquisitions at this point already. So
I mean,
people
if
are still wondering
now,
about.
They would still be doing pretty well.
Yeah, and people are still wondering about Sony and Bluepoint. I keep getting asked about that one too, and I'm like, well, as far as I'm aware, legally, Sony can't have bought them and just sit on it for months.
No,
I don't think that's a thing that can happen. We all saw the accidental title card of PlayStation. I just wonder, because again, it's another thing that I've been getting so many DMs about. It's so Nick, have they bought Bluepoint? Have they? I got told that they had, but I just wonder, because in a lot of instances with these acquisitions, something I have found out ever since all this stuff started is that sometimes with these acquisitions, the majority of the company don't know about it. So it's something that the managers have organized with the person acquiring them. So Bluepoint management and Sony have said, yep, here's the in-principle agreement. We agree to ABC, blah, 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 blah. But the rest of the company don't know about it. And then a leak happens, like that title card, and all of a sudden the rest of the company knows about it and absolutely crack it. And the deal falls through.
Yeah.
Like stuff like that can happen. I'm not saying that's what's happened with Bluepoint. Again, it's just a guess. Like, because like someone at Sony made that card, and they wouldn't have made it.
It was just a dream board. They were just
that's right. Like, someone made that, and someone like I was a graphic designer. I have uploaded stuff to websites. We do it for XboxEra. Like, you intentionally click that picture. That picture is sitting in a folder somewhere with all the others, and someone clicked that to upload it to Twitter.
Yeah.
Like,
you know what happened? It's because the thumbnails probably looked really similar to each other, and so they didn't zoom in, and they just clicked it to upload it. And they're like, oh crap.
Yeah. So one day, maybe that person, that designer, was told, look, whip up one for Bluepoint, whip up one for Firesprite, whip up one for whatever, and when we get the deal done, we'll upload it to Twitter, and away we go. And it could be that the deal wasn't signed, sealed, delivered yet. Yeah. All the insiders heard that it was all but done, which is why that spread. And then they upload that picture by accident, and Bluepoint's been acquired.
Yeah.
But it could be that the actual paperwork wasn't signed yet. The rest of the company didn't know. And all the staff were like, hold on, we didn't want to be acquired. And it's caused a big ruckus, and the deal is over now. I don't know, because from what I've been told, they can't have acquired them and just sit on it for months.
They have a responsibility to, the same as Microsoft. Yeah. You can't keep it secret.
Yeah. Like maybe with a private company, you can keep it secret for like a little bit, like a couple of weeks or something like that. But this is when was that leak? When was that picture uploaded to Twitter by accident?
It was ages ago now.
2 months ago? Yeah, it was a while ago.
They can't sit on it for 2-3 months.
Yeah.
Maybe 2-3 weeks, but that's it. So my guess is, again, purely an educated guess, is that maybe that deal fell through, possibly because of the leak. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a very odd situation, but I guess
it is. It's an odd one. It's a really odd one.
Just have to wait and see.
Down from the OT.
Yeah.
I put them in the OT thinking it was done, so maybe I have to take it off.
Well, it's a no-brainer, so it's no surprise if it did happen, but
no, everyone's expecting it at this point. But
I do wonder why they would be so resistant to it if that was the case. Like,
I know,
unless it was just the worst terms ever. Like, I don't know why they would care that much. I guess, but
yeah.
I mean, look, who knows? Like, maybe because Bluepoint have been public about the fact that they'd like to make their own game.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe Sony's sole intention for them was to be a remake studio and they didn't like it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Again, this is all just me guessing. Like, Sony was very public and said Nix's is going to be our port studio. And Nix's have also been public saying they're happy to be a port studio.
Yeah.
So, cool. That worked out. Like, Nix's have always worked with PlayStation. Crystal Dynamics did the Xbox ports and Nix's always did the PlayStation port. So that relationship has been long-standing, and they know PlayStation hardware because of that, and it makes total sense. And it would suggest that Sony's future PC ports will probably be rock-solid ports because Nixes are really good at what they do.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Because that's where I'll be playing a lot of it.
Hopefully they come sooner than 5 years after the game is out, and that would be great.
Well, I think the market would need to catch up to Microsoft's ambitions for that change to actually be fully realized, right? I think that's the end game. Is if that ever happens, it will be because Microsoft have caused the shift that they are intending to cause, which at the moment is, in the story, both consoles are selling out as soon as they the Series X is selling out as soon as it gets made, right? The Series S is, I think I've owned one and I love it, I think anyone that does pick them up is suddenly like, this is really cute and small and
Yeah, they do. They like it when they get it.
But the hardcore that are still trying to get the best console they can get to last them the gen right now, both makers are selling PS5 digital, physical, and the Xbox Series X. As soon as they make them, it does seem like PS5 are making more. Hopefully now that the racks are all done for xCloud, Series X will start becoming a little bit more readily available. But I mean, this is going to go on for 2 years. I think I saw recent articles now.
Although, I mean, ask yourself, how did they manage to have that Halo console at a time? Think about it. At a time when they can't even make enough Series X's to keep up with demand, how did they manage to make that Halo console?
Well,
because you alluded, you were like, I've got a sneaky suspicion they might do a Halo console.
Yeah,
last year, before all that happened, you were like, because they've always done a Halo console, always, except for Halo 2. They've always done a Halo console for Halo games. But then we just assumed between the pandemic and between the fact that they couldn't even make enough Series X's to keep up, I didn't think they were going to do a console. I thought they would just do an Elite controller, which they did.
Yeah.
So ask yourself, how did Microsoft manage to make Series X's, xCloud Blades, and that Halo console?
Well, the Halo console isn't ready yet. Like, you've secured a pre-order. They've said we're going to have this many ready.
Are they making?
Yeah, that's the thing.
I'd be very interested to
now,
see how many they made. I'd be very, very interested. I'm glad I got one.
Yeah, I didn't think it was that good looking, so I was.
It wasn't. I'm glad. Oh, that's right, because I wasn't on with you after that was shown.
No, you weren't.
Yes,
I was on holiday.
I think that Shang-Chi console is nicer looking than the Halo console. Did you see it? The Shang-Chi one?
Yeah, I did.
The custom one, yeah.
It looks cool.
It's pretty cool. I don't mind it. It's better than the Halo one.
Speaking of Halo, we have got a new tech test to look forward to on the 24th of September.
Can't wait.
Which is
the
finally...
one thing 343 have got right.
The
multiplayer for Halo.
So far. So that is going to be BTB and PvP in general.
Yep, can't wait.
Which I'm really excited to play. I was chatting with some of our team at XboxEra today. So if you've never watched them, back in the day, back in the dark days of NeoGAF, before we all found out the owners were a bit horrible.
Dodgy.
I used to make community montages. So when the Halo 5 beta launched, I did one. When Halo 5 properly launched, we did one. We're going to do the same. We're going to extend the invite across XboxEra and Remastered. I spoke to some of the moderation team earlier today at Remastered to see if it would count under self-promotion rules or whatever the case that may be. It doesn't. So we can get all the communities involved. So as that approaches, we'll have a thread on XboxEra forums. You can throw your clips in. You'll have your gamer tag pinged across it, and you can be part of that initial fun celebration of PvP.
Join our forums, Paul. That'll go swimmingly.
Yeah, you can fight the trolls.
I've seen the screenshots. To be fair, I can copy and paste a bunch of pro Xbox headlines I have also written. So.
Do it. Join our forum and do it. It's like, here, guys, look, I like Xbox now. Look.
Yeah.
Oh, man. It's just video games, people. You gotta just roll the punches. So yeah, I am really looking forward to because when they turned the PvP on the last flight, it was like 3 a.m. my time, and I saw it was happening.
Perfect time for me. Like, it was great.
Nah, I'm going to bed.
Finally, as an Australian, I wasn't screwed over by something. It was good.
But I'm looking forward to partying up with friends, with the community, and just playing Halo all weekend. It is going to be
that multiplayer is going to be.
We get to taste PvP, judge how vehicles work. It's 12v12 now. Like, come on, there's lots to be excited about.
I have 100% faith in the multiplayer team. Only the multiplayer team. They're the only ones.
I see you're in the same boat with the campaign, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
a little odd.
It is.
I have concerns.
It is concerning. I can agree with the community sentiment right now. Like. Here's a question for you, Paul. Like, obviously, you love Destiny, you're a big Destiny fan, and you probably played it enough that you quite like the lore now, and you know all the ins and outs where it would probably fly over my head. Were you a big Halo fan back in the day before you played Destiny, or did you kind of bounce off it? And
yeah, Halo 3 is probably one of my most played games ever. I wouldn't say I know the Halo lore as well as I know the Destiny lore, but I know there are some pretty big changes they're making that have not gone over so great, in addition to many of the other 343 kind of direction things that they've done over the years. So like imagining if that happened within Destiny at the same level, I get why people are probably pretty upset about that too. So
fair. Yeah, it's really intriguing, right? You got to think we're in September now. The game is out in 3 months. We've not seen anything of campaign apart from that very, very short demo. We've seen one improved graphical clip, and it was improved, right? That I would argue. I saw some footage for Call of Duty Vanguard, and I was like, it just, no offense, Call of Duty fans, it just looks so unabashedly average to me. And when I looked and thought
that was very early footage, though, wasn't it?
It was from the beta or whatever. I can't remember what it was. It was just some multiplayer footage.
Yeah.
And I looked back at the Halo Infinite footage, and I'm like, Halo Infinite looks really clean. Like, it really, really just really great performance. Looks nice. It's not changing the world in terms of graphical fidelity and all of that.
But I assume the graphics in the final game in the multiplayer will be improved.
Oh yeah, I'm sure it will be all tightened up and everything. But it already looks good. I'd be happy right now if that was more or less what it looked like at launch.
For Halo, I think we need we just need them to redo essentially the demo they did in the first place and be like, this is how much better it looks now. Like that is kind of really it. And like
that's probably.
I mean, I'd also like some more information about the structure of the campaign that I'm still just not quite clear on with the open world versus little side missions versus how that works with a story campaign, because like that is such a major change for the franchise that to not know any information about like lore aside, like graphics aside, like that is something I'm kind of confused about how that's going
3 months
to
away
work for this game. Yeah, we've seen and heard nothing about that, which seems crazy. The only thing we've heard is that it's not getting co-op. It's its own thing.
I think there was a bit of a clue when they said it's not getting co-op, in that they talked a little bit about how the structure of the game has caused a lot of hiccups for them, and that's why it's coming 3 months later. In that, in old Halo, you know, if you wanted too far, you could trigger a spawn and pull the player with you. But what do we do in a world where there might be a trigger event for a mission here and a trigger event here, and if those two players go and trigger both of them, who do we care about more? And I get that, so I understand the problem. But
so many games have solved this
I
to some extent.
I don't get it.
It's not a new
Halo already solved it. Like, they sit there and they say, "Oh, it's an open world and people can go off in their own direction." So then, why are they playing co-op? Go play on your own then. Like, if you don't want to be tethered,
wanders really far away from me, I'm yelling at him to get back.
Yeah, that's right. Like,
me.
It happens in Fortnite now. Like, I play with my kids and their cousin, and if my daughter wanders off, we're like, come back. Where are you going? Like,
it's an odd one. I even suggested that just the simple solution of, you know, like when you go out of bounds in a map and it starts going all fuzzy and you get the countdown, turn around and go back to your player.
That's what Destiny does. With. Destiny will pull you. There'll be a countdown. It'll rejoin your team, like wherever the checkpoint is. So
I've literally, in every Halo game I've ever played, I've never heard anyone complain about how the game tethers you together in co-op. Yeah. I've never heard anyone complain about that.
It's really odd.
Like,
it's frustrating.
It almost sounds like they're throwing it out there as an excuse. It almost sounds like because to me they're inventing a problem that doesn't exist. Like, I don't think anyone cares. Like, if 343 came out and said, look, the CE system works, we're just going to tether you guys together when you're playing co-op, I don't think there'd be outrage over that. Like, I'm playing co-op because I want to play together with my friends. I'm not playing co-op to go off and do my own thing as if I was playing single player.
Having said that, I hate it when games say that there's co-op and then I get excited about, oh, great, co-op, and then the implementation of that co-op is the worst thing in the world ever. Case in point, State of Decay 2. Didn't really care about the State of Decay universe, didn't really love the first one. But, play with the second one with friends, manage a base, you know, survive zombie hordes, cool. Oh, you go in, but you're not really playing all together. You're kind of a guest and you can't wander off, and it was horrible. It was just immediately was like, well, I'm never playing this, so I don't care. And I know there's State of Decay 2 is a very popular game, but that co-op limitation in terms of design immediately killed it for me and friends. We were just like, nah. So I'm curious to see how it's all going to turn out, but at least we haven't got long to find out, right? The marketing is gonna start ramping up now. It is gonna kick off and things are gonna start happening and we're gonna start seeing things. It's gonna be events. There'll probably be press preview events and all of that is gonna start coming soon. So I'm super intrigued to see how it all plays out.
Isn't it funny the way Bungie and 343 and their franchises kind of swapped issues? Like Halo's multiplayer has been like great the whole time with 343. 343, their multiplayer team deserves a raise.
Halo 4's multiplayer was
the one thing I noticed about Destiny when I played Destiny 1 and Destiny 2 is that PvP is horrible. I absolutely hated it.
It's like not as good as Halo. I will give you that.
It's like I played it and I'm like, how is this from Bungie? Like, how is this from the studio that defined console multiplayer? Like,
I was consistently the most controversial part of the game. Sure.
It's just funny how that has completely swapped.
Come on,
and 343 are known for not doing the greatest campaigns and stuff like that.
I don't know if I'd agree. Like, I think if I look back at the Halo franchise and I think of Halo Reach, and I know a lot of people that was their first Halo game and they loved it, but from a multiplayer point of view, it introduced a lot of things that I thoroughly disliked in Halo.
Armor lock.
Some questionable equipment design choices.
That was the worst.
Loadouts and bloom on guns that just made firefights very unpredictable and ergo unfair and frustrating at times. And then it declined. Then Halo 4 tried to ace the Call of Duty train, and then if you strip out the terrible stuff from Halo 4, the actual how it feels as a Halo game is thumbs up for me.
Feels amazing.
And then Halo 5 was like, okay, this is really great multiplayer.
Yes.
So it feels like I get all of the controversy, all of the discussion around this is why so many eyes are on 343, because it's like Halo 4, good campaign, bad multiplayer. Halo 5, bad campaign, good multiplayer.
Great.
Is this the one where we get both? And obviously, pandemic.
But Reach gave us SWAT. And SWAT was just...
I'm not talking about SWAT.
Halo SWAT is just on another level. It is just...
Anywho. Last topic of news before we jump to a Rumour Mill is, did you guys see the Redfall leak and all the screenshots that came out?
Yeah.
I feel
we understandably got very gamer reactions to it because, this product that's a year out doesn't look like Ratchet and Clank. So, of course, my God, it's just like the worst thing ever because the graphics aren't amazing.
This was like, I've seen a lot of gamer takes for like things being used for console war fuel and stuff. This is one of the worst ones I've seen in a long time. It is like pre-alpha dev build. Like, there's like blocks of like unfinished things, like buttons you press to start a mission that are still in it. Like,
there's floating hair with a tongue and eyes. Like, it's just like, it's clearly this super, super, super early stuff. Like, come on.
There's nothing to read into that in terms of how it looks. No, you cannot take away anything from that in terms of imagining what the final game will look like. There's just no way. I was actually excited about the leak because this is the first time I heard it was going to be like an open world kind of loot-based thing, potentially, which is, that's like my thing. So like this actually got me very excited for it. But the graphics thing, the people dunking on them for that was so dumb. Like it's the worst kind of a bait with that. I couldn't stand it.
And that's why the industry is so secretive.
Yeah.
Like,
people can't handle...
it's a vicious cycle. So, insiders and leakers exist because people are always constantly wanting new information. The industry, like, I think we've said this before, I love how Marvel is just open and they're like, here are our movies and TV shows for the next 10 years. And everyone's like, cool. Like, I wish the gaming industry could be like that. But the problem is gamers themselves. Like, you show something early and they're like, oh my God, that's 360 graphics. This is going to be the worst game of all time. And it's just like,
why you show something late and they're like, why aren't you talking about this? What's wrong?
That's right. It's the gamers themselves that are the problem. Like, if we could all just be normal adults that are just happy that this stuff exists, then the gaming industry would open up. Like, and a little bit of that is on the companies too. Like, it's not just us that's to blame. Like, some of these companies probably need a few lessons in transparency. Like, I feel like there's a company, and to me, it won't be Sony, but because Sony is far more bulletproof than others, and Nintendo is far more bulletproof than others, I feel like they're probably the two companies that should take the lead on that transparency and be like, here, everyone, this is the stuff, and it's super early, so it's not going to look to our normal level right now. But don't worry, like, and I feel like if those two were to take the lead on that, others might follow. Maybe I don't know.
Who has done that? That is kind of weirded me out though. Is BioWare with Dragon Age? Yeah. Whereas like they keep showing all the in development stuff, but it's like concept art and it is like base, like kind of almost stick model stuff and like environments. But like they have been doing that for so long. I am now like, okay, like there is a game. Like, again, it's such a fine line to walk between like that being a good thing and that being like, where is the actual products at this point? This is like the third year trying concept art.
I mean,
the game industry is very unique.
Everything comes together.
The gaming industry is super unique like that.
Yeah, it all comes together in the last 3 to 6 months. Like that's just how it is. Yes. And unfortunately, that's why I really like the usual Bethesda way of doing things. Like E3 comes out in September. Have fun. Whoa. Yep. Okay. Yep. Cool. Yep. You know, and I feel like, you know, going back to that Deathloop conversation, I almost feel like because of the pandemic and because we've seen so much of it now, all excitement has evaporated. We've seen too much of you.
Yeah,
you know,
it's like the 9th Deathloop showing.
Yeah,
that we've seen.
I feel sorry for
3
them.
years.
I really do. Yeah, but that is all of the week's news condensed into an hour and 26 minutes of hot takes and opinions. Now I like pressing this button, so. I understand this week, Nick, we have a Rumour Mill.
2 of them.
2? Well, 2. Boom. There you go. So I'm going to press this button.
I kept getting asked on Twitter, who's at Xbox? It can't be Sony because Sony just had their show. It's Xbox and Sony.
Well, I'm going to press the button then for a short 10-second piece of fun.
Push the button.
You guys can't hear it, but I can. So it's great.
You know that's going to be on the recording, yeah? The audio version.
Yeah. I know. Okay. It's Rumour Mill time. Go.
Okay, so I spoke about this on Twitter that one of my rumors might have already got out before I got a chance to say anything, but I haven't seen articles or anything, so it's not very widespread. So the first rumor is about Xbox, and that is that I've been told Indiana Jones will be full Xbox exclusive, because I know that a lot of people sort of assumed that based on the fact that deal was probably done before the acquisition, it's indie, it's Disney, it'll most likely be multi-plat. But let's be honest, does Disney have a problem with exclusivity? Look at Spider-Man, look at Wolverine. And my guess is, I want to say the KOTOR remake probably pushed Microsoft over the edge on that one. And they were just like, okay, enough's enough now. We're going to lock Indiana Jones down. That's going to be on Xbox only.
You mean the Uncharted rip-off? No.
Hey, I'd love that. I think. Well, I mean, Uncharted was based on Indiana Jones anyway.
No, that's what I mean. You're going to see those comments.
Yeah. Of course. Of course.
Could be a generation of kids that have never watched an Indiana Jones movie.
That's right.
Thinking it's just the new Nathan Drake.
You know who you are, Proven. All right.
Yeah. I think Jeff Grubb might have said something like, I think Indie's exclusive. I think Paris Lilly might have said that he believes, and that's what I was talking about when I said I've been beaten to it, but I haven't seen anything about it. So as far as I'm aware, Indie is locked up. That's it. It's only coming to Xbox and PC, obviously, the Xbox ecosystem.
I'm just operating under the assumption now that all Bethesda games are going to be Xbox exclusive.
That's right. Like, yes, that is. We said this. Yeah, we said it back when it happened. We're like, just assume that anything that has a contract, your Deathloops, your Ghostwires, those contracts will be honoured. There'll be a couple of other small things here and there, like Quake. Like the Quake remaster. Yeah. Having said that, I personally would have locked away that Quake remaster, personally. But yeah, outside of little things like that, safe to assume Elder. Let's get it out of the way now. Elder Scrolls 6, that's going to be exclusive as well. Just to sort of,
obviously,
just like seriously, just guys, forget about it. Like everything going for the next Doom, Wolfenstein, it's all going to be Xbox exclusive. Just let it go now, unless Sony allows Game Pass on PS5. That's how you get it.
Do it, Sony. I dare you.
Can you imagine?
Speaking of which, so the next rumor is the Sony one. So Sony acquired Firesprite, which is the ex studio, Liverpool studio that made Wipeout. I have been told that they are working on a Horizon VR game.
What, Horizon
VR.
Zero? Yeah, the Horizon franchise.
I asked, I said, is it Forbidden West VR? Is it Zero Dawn VR? It's a separate thing set in the Horizon universe. That is VR.
I can't imagine they would adapt one of the games into VR. That would be really weird.
Interesting.
But doing a
that's
separate
right.
thing,
my assumption is it's this separate experience / game. I didn't get told if it's a full-blown game like a Half-Life Alyx or if it's an experience like that Batman thing. That part I don't know. I also wonder, like I posted on Twitter at the risk of pissing off one of my sources that Wipeout is coming back. You have to wonder, are Firesprite doing Wipeout? They're Liverpool
right?
that were doing Wipeout. So you have to wonder if maybe Wipeout is probably one of their projects as well.
For
given
VR?
There's a lot of Yeah, and it probably would. Yeah, well, I think I said that this new Wipeout will be VR focused as well. So
they're making a headset, so they got to make some.
That's right.
Yeah.
So it would make, to me, it aligns.
Yeah.
It all aligns. Wipeout's coming. There's going to be a VR mode or a VR focus on the new Wipeout. They just acquired the studio that used to make Wipeout. Safe to say, and this studio does VR stuff. Safe to say they're probably also doing the new Wipeout. But in terms of what this rumor was, it was about them doing a Horizon VR thing.
I mean, that's easy to see, the motion control with a
Yeah.
phone.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Bit of an archery slant for it,
Yeah.
Fair enough.
It could be cool. We still don't know enough about PSVR 2, of course, but I mean, the only thing we do, I think, know is that it's not going to be backwards compatible with PSVR 1 games.
Not shocking.
I'd be interested to see how that goes down.
Yeah. Well,
because I feel like it hinders it, but yeah. Anyway,
I think VR. You've got a Quest. I've got a Quest. Have you got?
I do now.
PSVR or a Quest, Paul, or what?
I have the original Oculus and a Quest.
Yeah.
That I do not use very often.
Yeah, I don't use my Quest too much at all.
I think that's VR, right? It is. I've got a group of friends around. Let's play Beat Saber, and let me show you this roller coaster. And isn't this cool? And then it goes back in the box because I want to sit on a sofa and not move. Right?
It's a tech demo, and like that same group of friends usually doesn't come back and ask to do it a second time.
That's right.
It's kind of a one-off thing I found.
Yeah.
But
and
I could go off about VR for like an hour. So
I mean, don't get me wrong. I've had experiences on VR that were incredible. I still think Beat Saber is hands down the best actual game that you can play.
Yeah, it's great.
I think the best story game I've played is Lone Echo. I know Lone Echo 2 is coming soon. I will probably pick that up because Lone Echo was incredible on Quest, or on Oculus Rift, I should say. But I admire Sony's gumption in still trying to do VR, and I know a lot of Xbox fans have said like, "Oh, well, you guys going to do VR?" And I've often said this, and I'll repeat it again: if Microsoft took this long to finally get their ducks in a row and actually make video games on a decent cadence that look to have the appropriate amount of budget and ambition, do you really want to now ask them to split resources and start making VR stuff that you might not ever play? No, and I think that's why Microsoft probably won't do VR unless it explodes in popularity, which
they're doing like AR stuff over there. Like, they're doing their own thing with that, not having it for gaming. I mean, Sony's only doing this because PSVR was like the best selling VR headset. So it's like, all right, well, we were doing better than the other guys at least, so let's do it again. But I think Microsoft absolutely made the right decision to not go down that rabbit hole themselves, honestly.
Yeah. It's and if in some weird world the PlayStation VR explodes and everyone has it and it does better than Kinect did back in the day, right? Which I think was the fastest selling accessory for a console
At
ever.
the time.
That was cheating because it was bundled.
Yeah, I know. But it
Not
has
the
that
360 one.
audit.
The
But,
360,
original Connect.
Yeah,
Okay.
sorry.
The original Connect was that fastest
That's
selling.
what
The
I mean.
second one, nah. The second
But
one.
you have to wonder
wait.
if Sony saw that kind of success with PSVR 2, whether Microsoft would just be like, "Hey Oculus, you can plug your store in. Just can we have the Oculus Link? That's it." Or Windows Mixed Reality. We've got 12 billion headsets that currently work. Let's just flip the switches and bring that all to life.
They didn't put USB-C in the console, so that'd be tricky.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm intrigued, but cool. There's some interesting rumors. You've got a bit of a double whammy. I feel like the Indiana Jones one, you know, if you've been paying attention, it does feel a little bit.
It should
like
have
a
been kind of
no-brainer,
obvious,
you
like.
know?
Yeah.
But it's nice. It's nice that.
But I did see people question it, and I did see a lot of people assume that because it was done probably before the acquisition and it's Disney and people just thought, okay, well, that'll be one of the ones that still comes to PlayStation. But from
the
what
actual
I've been
game
told,
is so far out, right? I mean, it's got to be.
Yeah, probably
so
is.
Well,
it's not like Deathloop that is here.
You say that, but when did the last Machine Games like fully released by them game release? Because I know we had
Wolfenstein 2.
Well, what was it? Was it Youngblood? No, Youngblood was the Schluter attempt, right? When did that come out? I feel like that came out in 2018, I want to say.
It was a while ago.
But I don't think Machine Games did all of the dev on that. They were kind of like a...
Youngblood was 2019.
2019.
Quake Dimension of the Machine 2021.
I don't know. I feel like we might see indie not like imminently, but I feel like
I think the earliest would be 2023 late.
Yeah.
Would be the absolute earliest.
That'll be when the date is announced, and then it'll get delayed to 2024.
Video games. How we love thee. Everything's delayed. Okay, so that's our Rumour Mill. So we now arrived at the part of the podcast where we can relax a little bit. It's a little less focused on the news as we try and get through it. A quick thank you to all of our patrons. So just wanted to say big thank you to Croat56, Blast the Bass, Nodorius, Not Jack, Sowing Shade, The Scarecrow 121, TornRaptor, VK Andrew, Brit, Keris, Duke Chaos, Nottian, Gabquist, Hexer, J Rapper, Cartoon Soldier, profjjj, Red Sun, Shadowgasm, Somnia, and Running Riot. You guys are lovely. Obviously, all our patrons are lovely, but they patron more, so they patron real hard. So they get the big shout.
And remember, you still get a copy of Omega Rally Championship.
Yes.
When you join the Patreon.
So,
which our friend Anorexic was nice enough to give us all those codes for that. It's really good.
Lovely chap. So yeah, we're now in community questions. So Paul, if you've not experienced this before, brace yourself. Our community are weird. So we're going to get all sorts of questions from favourite sandwiches.
They do ask some cracking questions.
They do. So yeah, so let's dive in. Nick, I'll pass the mic to you.
We'll try and get through them. We don't want to keep Paul too long. Okay.
So it got really dark in here. I didn't know the sun was going to go down.
Okay. DeoGame. So those Lucasfilm Xbox games still happening, barring indie. I assume he's alluding to a while back we said how we're pretty sure Microsoft is looking more at Lucasfilm while Sony is clearly focusing on Marvel. As far as I'm aware, that's still the case. From what I know, I think Microsoft is still leaning more towards the Lucasfilm properties like your Star Wars, Indie, all that sort of stuff.
But not KOTOR.
Yes.
It's a lot of third party though, because I mean you got Respawn and you got the Massive doing the Star Wars game.
Yeah,
because I think EA have that license is ended or is ending.
Yeah,
and that's why. But have you noticed that's why no one is showing anything? Like they're announcing stuff but not showing stuff, and I think that's because the EA agreement is still technically in place as we speak, but it's coming to an end, I think. But yes, I still think Microsoft are looking at nabbing more Star Wars properties and Lucasfilm properties. Yes, that is what I believe to be the case. Okay, Beast Mode 10. Hi, John, Nick, Paul. No questions. Just putting some good energy in the universe. Deadpool by id. R-rated or mature rated only? Maybe. Gritty vengeance story, gore that provokes some sort of congressional appearance like the OG Mortal Kombat. Great gameplay mechanics. id Tech 7, enough said. Also, rogue light, not rogue like, as Deadpool can regenerate. Pretty sure Reynolds would also be on board for something like this. Nah, they're gonna get Nolan North again. Not just for being part of the game, I mean, but also for the congressional appearance to defend the goriness of the game. Lol. Yeah, I think Reynolds would voice Deadpool in a game that was made now, but Jesus, just they get Nolan North and Troy Baker for everything. Like, let's be honest, Troy Baker's going to be Wolverine, isn't he?
Yeah, he's probably going to be Wolverine.
Like, jeez, like surely there's other voice actors out there. There has to be other voice actors out there. Like Meryl Streep doesn't act every female role in the industry. Like, there's other actresses out there. Like, come on.
It would be a bit weird if she did start in every film.
Oh my God. Let Hugh Jackman do it.
I have to admit, though,
Hugh Jackman voice Wolverine, for God's sake.
This question, this whole, I've seen this all over Twitter. Oh, Xbox need to lock down a Marvel game. They need a superhero game. They need this.
Not gonna happen.
Like, I get it. I get, that you want a superhero game. Like, I just don't understand that they don't need to. Like, personally, as someone that likes playing video games, I like playing original ideas and not like loads of. Otherwise, it's just like going to the movies again, where it's just sequels of rehashes of reboots of IPs over and over and over. And I've played those stories. I don't know.
Also, like lately, there's only really one major superhero game, I guess two: the Arkham series and Spider-Man. But then you have stuff that's like still kind of unproven. Or like Guardians of the Galaxy, like who knows how that's going to go? And then we have Avengers, which most people would consider not a success. So like, I don't think that's any guarantee of like, just because you get a superhero game, like it's got to be the right team, it's got to be the right concept. So
we've got Suicide Squad as well coming.
Suicide Squad, Gotham Knights.
Yeah, there's loads coming.
I just don't see a reason to like you must get Marvel. Like you got to make a Thor game, or I don't know. Like I don't think you need that for sure.
No, I agree.
But that's the thing. Like sometimes you do your own. Like I said, Microsoft seem to be leaning more towards the Lucasfilm stuff. So, like to me, we're saying now that Indie's exclusive. What if Microsoft chased hard and got Mandalorian? Would that not be a 1-2 punch, the equivalent of Spidey and Wolverine? Like,
I
think that would raise a few eyebrows. Yeah, for sure. I'd love
to
see
as to who would make it. But...
Yeah, well, I don't know. As far as I'm aware, there's a Mandalorian game happening. Just don't know who's making it yet.
Yeah.
Still trying to find out. But I'd be shocked if Microsoft weren't looking at that as one of the ones they'd want to lock down. But yeah, I don't know. So next question. As you can tell, sorry, Paul, from the robe, we have a community member named Cerys who asks questions that are like full on, like they're like
strap in
stories. And one day I made a comment that like, my God, I got to get a robe and a pipe out for when Cerys asks her questions because they're just so full on. And ever since then, now when people see the robe come on, they already know in advance that it's going to be a question from Cerys.
All right.
This was the only robe I had in the house. It's my wife's robe.
Sure it is.
I don't have my own robe.
I'm not judging you, man.
Okay.
No one's judging you.
Okay. Cerys. Hello, panel and Paul. With a busy month at work, 2 children, consistent housework, games in my backlog, and new games coming out where I would start my gaming September, why with Destiny 2 and No Man's Sky? Again. It's still a surprise that even now, after being annoyed to death by Destiny, is that familiar to you, Paul? And being finished with No Man's Sky, both are still able to pull me back after an update. Both are games that I enjoy spending my spare time with, even as a mostly solo player. Destiny Crossplay has been great in particular. These games are the gaming equivalent of, for me, fruit gums. I could eat fruit gums until I became one. I could watch The Matrix over and over. I could watch Jaws again and again. I could read Neil Gaiman's Sandman over and over. Gaiman, is that right? Is that how you pronounce that surname? With that in mind, I wondered, panel, which sandwich could you eat over and over?
Okay.
Like a literal sandwich? Okay.
Yeah, like what sandwich could you have every day?
Something simple like cheese and pickle, or extravagant like a Fabergé egg in platinum bread served on a bed of what the hell? Krugerrands? Krugerrands. The hell is that?
I don't know. I'll have a look.
Krugerrands? Krugerrands? I don't even know what that is. I've never heard of that word. I would choose ham and peas pudding. Pease. Ham and peas pudding in a stotty cake. Oh, and I don't know. Let's make it. Yeah, neither do I. Okay. Oh, and I don't know. Let's make it a little highbrow. What book would you read over and over, Cerys? See what I mean? That's why I wear the robe.
Okay. Sandwich, I'll do peanut butter and jelly. That's easy.
Oh wow, that's very US. That's very American.
For sure.
Yeah,
that's all we eat here. That's why all our kids are fat. But
yeah,
including myself when I was eating it all my childhood. Book's a little harder. I'll think about that.
Well, I'll provide some clarity. Krugerrands, I believe is how it's pronounced, are the gold coins that were minted by the Republic of South Africa in 1967 and actually featured in the film Lethal Weapon 2. With the whole South African plot. The Krugerrands were the coins that Murdoch and Reeves found. Okay. There you go. So don't eat solid gold.
Well, kids. If I can eat a sandwich made of money and then just keep the money, that's not a bad setup, I guess.
Maybe that would work.
A sandwich I could eat over and over.
I am a ridiculously simple man of simple tastes, and I actually get lambasted for this. When I used to work in London, I used to work in an office, and I got a friend of mine a job there, and he was quite successful, and it was great because we used to go out for lunch, and he used to get really irritated at me because I don't care for variety. It's just fuel, and I would buy this Tesco ham and cheese sub, and I would always microwave it so the cheese was all gooey, and I would just and just eat that, and it would be like every lunch. Where I wasn't working from home, every lunch break I would just be like, it was like, don't you ever want anything else? I was like, nah.
Why? Well, you're already doing it, essentially.
I'm going by the Australian definition of a sandwich because I discovered that in Americans call what we call burgers sandwiches. And I think the UK is like us.
Well, we call a burger a burger.
What's a burger for you?
A burger is
Well, hold on. So the technical definition of a burger is it's got to have the beef patty in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
In Australia, it's not like that. In Australia, and I think the UK, but John can correct me, we define a sandwich versus a burger by the bread that's being used. So if it's slices of bread, then it's a sandwich. If it's the burger buns, those rounded buns, then it's a burger.
No.
I mean, we just don't put
bull.
burgers
So what do
in
you call at McDonald's? What do you call the fillet of fish?
I call it a fillet of fish.
Yeah.
But is it a sandwich or a burger?
That's a sandwich.
It's a sandwich.
No, so we call them burgers.
Yeah,
because of the bun.
But I could buy some soft white buns and put a lovely bit of ham and cheese in it, and it would still be a ham and cheese freaking sandwich. It wouldn't be a ham and cheese burger just because the bun's round.
Well, we go by the bun.
Yeah, I can't move to Australia. That's just
all right, I learned something today.
Yeah, we go by the bun. So everything at Macca's is a burger. It's all burgers to us.
Okay.
We call them all burgers. Because I know, yes, it's the hamburger patty, and that's why it's called a burger, blah, blah, blah. But down here, it's evolved beyond that. So going by the Australian version of a sandwich versus a burger, my sandwich is very, very plain Nutella sandwich.
Fair enough.
All right.
Sweet tooth.
You can't go wrong with a Nutella sandwich. Nutella's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay. Book wise,
I don't read books.
I would say
I don't read books.
The one book I could read over and over and over would either be The Talisman by Peter Straub and Stephen King. And I would wholeheartedly recommend it if you've never read it. It's about a 12-year-old boy who has to travel from one side of the US to the other to save his mother from cancer. Really good read. And Artemis Fowl. Don't judge it on the movie. The Artemis Fowl books are awesome, and I love reading them even as an adult. There you go. Those are my books.
I'll
Book
say,
choices.
Snow Crash by Neil Stephenson, one of my favorite sci-fi books, and The Road by Cormac McCarthy, which is one of my favorite apocalyptic books.
Good choice.
And that's the one the movie is based on, I assume?
Yes, yeah.
Yep.
Very, very bleak, but I love it. It's like one of my favorite styles of writing.
Nice.
The only books I read now are the books that my kids read to me before they go to bed.
Mate.
But they read to you. That's nice.
Peppa Pig. You know.
How old's your oldest?
True literary
whatever
classic
book
of our
Bluey
time.
is in.
Can I talk about Bluey again?
It's the greatest show. It's such a great.
Why
cartoon.
is everyone like Bluey so much?
Because it's incredible.
Have you seen it?
I don't have a kid. I'm not gonna randomly watch Bluey.
Hey, a lot of adults watch Bluey, mate. I'm telling you. Bluey,
my wife,
Bluey is cartoon.
My wife came
Bluey's
to
good.
bed yesterday, and she walks in, and she just hears the theme tune, and she's like, "John, this is becoming a problem." I'm like, and twice now she's come home, and I've been like, "Oh, honey, watch Bluey with the kids today. This episode, Granddad." It ended. The mum's leaning on her dad's shoulder as grown up, and she's like, "Oh, I remember when we were kids and we were swimming in the lake." And she says, "Oh, it feels such a long time ago." And then the animation, she shrinks down into a little girl, and you just hear the granddad say, "Nah, feels like yesterday." And I'm just like, "Oh god." Go watch Bluey. It is the best kids show I've seen in years. It's
a brilliant cartoon. Like,
it's so good.
Yeah, it's very Australian. Like I love how Australian it is. Like the keepy uppy, and I used to do that as a kid all the time, and now my kids watch Bluey and they do keepy uppy. And it's just it's so good, and the dad is a classic.
The dad's the best. I think it's the fact that it actually does realistic what kids actually do. Like there was a bit where the dad's trying to persuade the kid to brush her teeth, and as soon as she starts, he stops paying attention to her and is looking at his phone because that's what dads do, and she immediately legs it because he's no longer paying attention. It's like
it's so good. And like when they were out at the Chinese restaurant. And the younger one needed to go to the toilet, and he's like trying to juggle both of them, and he's taking her to the bushes, and like, it's so good.
I think you probably do have to be a parent to fully appreciate it, but
I'll put it on the list. I'll put it on the list for the future.
I don't reckon you do. I think being a parent helps.
Yeah,
but I still think even if you don't have kids, you can still watch Bluey and get a bit of a laugh out of it, like. Because the dad's just funny, and a lot of his jokes are funny, and a lot of that kid stuff's relatable to when you were a kid. Like I said, I used to play the keepy uppy stuff where we're keeping the balloon in the air as long as we could, and give it a watch.
I would say as well.
Like, aren't the episodes like 10 minutes, 5 minutes?
7 minutes episode.
Yeah,
7 minutes. Wow.
It's not like you're gonna
it's on Disney Plus as well.
Yeah, it's not like you're gonna. It's on Disney Plus with you guys.
Both full seasons on Disney Plus in the UK.
Wow. See, in Australia, because in Australia it's on the ABC iView app.
Oh wow.
Because it's an Aussie show, like it's not on Disney Plus here. Oh, that's interesting. I did not know that. So Disney are distributing it overseas.
I will say as well. I'd like to apologise to our gaming audience for the Bluey Tangent. But the last thing I'll say on the matter is, if you're in the UK and Nick, you may have seen this, you may have not, but from a UK perspective. Ben and Holly's Little Kingdom would recommend. Jolly good fun. Not as heartfelt as Bluey, but yeah, still good cartoon. Anyway,
Bluey's like Bluey right now. That's like I wish I had cartoons that good.
It's the Game of Thrones of 2021.
Yeah, like Bluey. Seriously, Paul, it's only like 7 minutes. It's not like you have to sit there for half an hour. It's like a YouTube video.
So
it's the length of a YouTube video. My review for The Artful Escape was 9 minutes. That's like longer than a Bluey episode.
Oh, man.
Like, it's nothing.
Okay.
All right, I'll get on it.
I'm putting a stop to it
with my Bluey thoughts for a follow-up episode in the future.
It could be worse. Talking about Friends.
Do
you watch Friends, Paul?
No, please don't answer the question,
Friends,
Paul.
Like the NBC show. I mean, I did back in the day. Yeah.
So there you go. That's more than MVG. MVG fucking hated it.
I mean,
I'm not. We're not doing a Friends tangent today. Okay, it's not happening. Please,
calling it right there.
Please, Lord. Okay. If any of the community questions have friends in it, I'm very upset. Okay. Right.
Okay.
Back on track. Come on.
TornRaptor. G'day, team and Paul. How likely is it we see XO in some form return this year? I see it as a great place to show Halo Infinite campaign off before release. For Paul, outside of Halo, what announced Xbox first-party game has you most excited? And what studio that has joined Xbox Game Studio since 2018 do you believe is the one to watch?
Well, XO very quickly. Yeah, I think it's a good shout. I think they'll do something for the 20 years.
Trying to. I think they'd like XO to be back this year. I think
yeah. If it's just for Halo, though, I wonder if they'd bother doing the whole branding for it, or if it's just like, oh, it's just Halo time. But in terms of first-party things, Starfield, honestly, just because it's been so long since a major Bethesda franchise game like that, and I mean the Microsoft acquisition is neither here nor there. I doubt it really affected what Starfield is. So I'm such a huge Fallout and Elder Scrolls fan that I'm just extremely curious to see what that's going to be like. And again, it's one of those projects where we've barely seen anything from it other than, quote unquote, the engine, but they're very confident with that release date, and they said as much when they announced it. Man, I don't know. There's so Bethesda's it's kind of cheating to say Bethesda is one to watch because they have so many things under them that that is kind of the thing though, because they're such a powerhouse and they have so many unique IPs that they can almost single-handedly be the ones to kind of just bolster Microsoft's first party roster, and then in addition to the other ones they picked up. So I think how they operate under Microsoft, and whether it's just kind of only sequels to the games they have already, or if it's more kind of unique original projects like Starfield, I think they are kind of very, very intimately tied to the whole kind of future of Microsoft's first party thing in a way that these other individual studios aren't. That, like Ninja Theory, they'll come up with good games, I'm sure, but few will be maybe as high profile as Bethesda. The Initiative, I think, is definitely kind of this super, mega experiment of just being something totally brand new and from scratch and try to take on a huge game right away. So that is something I'm certainly very curious about too.
Yeah. Solid choice. I think Bethesda is definitely the one to watch, but I'm very curious to see how some of the smaller studios suddenly surprise us out of nowhere. And I keep forgetting that Redfall, which we saw some leaked footage for earlier this week, it's out in the summer next year. And they confidently stated that.
That's the plan.
That's the plan, but I wonder if we'll see more from that at the Game Awards. I do wonder.
I think they're going to want to show stuff now after the leak that made it look
after
terrible.
The leak.
So,
yeah, definitely.
Look, guys, it doesn't look like a 360 game. Look,
it's
fine.
Yeah.
Okay. Next, DirtyFlint. Hello, Fire Team. The KOTOR remake got announced, and something has been really bothering me about it being a timed exclusive. That is the fact that the game has a massive plot twist. I didn't know this. 18 years is a long time, and an entire generation of people have been born since. Should games with big plot twists worry about these sorts of things when they take these deals? I don't think so.
If it was a brand new game that hadn't existed,
thing.
I would say your argument would have some semblance of reason to it, but it is something that has been played, it's been memed, it's kind of gaming knowledge now. I get that there's new people that may have never heard about it, and just try and avoid it now for however long. If you've never played it.
But if you haven't heard about it by now, I feel like you're probably not going to hear about it in another year.
I was about to say.
I doubt there's going to be some KOTOR spoiler brigade going around.
Yeah. I
think you're right. For a new game, I can see that mattering. For this game, I wasn't even looking for spoilers, and it's just randomly been spoiled for me over time, which is fine because it's such an old game. You wouldn't expect to not have it spoiled at this point, really, unless you're really lucky. But in this case, I don't think that can really be considered. No.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm 41, and I didn't play KOTOR, and I don't know what this plot twist is.
There you go.
So that is amazing to me.
If I didn't know there was a plot twist to KOTOR.
Now you just got ruined that there's a plot twist, and now you're going to be expecting a plot twist.
Unless because I'm old, I read about it and I have now forgotten with my early onset dementia.
Yeah.
That's
age
also
could be
possible.
helping you here. It's possible.
Yeah, maybe my feeble mind is helping me avoid spoilers for games that I secretly already knew the spoilers for. I don't know. I don't think it's that big a deal personally. But yeah, anyway. Good old Collingwood. Good evening, morning, John, Nick, and Paul. October is not too long away, and that means, at least for we Australians, daylight savings. Does that mean Nick has a longer lie-in? Or John staying up later? Actually, we probably have to talk about that. I'll go an hour earlier because it'll still be 8 a.m. for me, which means 10 p.m. for you, John?
Yeah, it will be. It's spring forward, fall back, right? So yeah, so it'll be 10 p.m. start. I'm fine with that. You know, we can make it 11
so it works out well because
again.
I'm still 8 a.m. I'll still be 8 a.m. But you will be an hour earlier. So going to bed not as late. So that works out well.
Yeah, running a transatlantic podcast is difficult.
But if you move down here, it'd be great. We could even do we could do it full on, like buy one of those professional cameras, come and sit on the couch. We do it how good would that be?
It would be good.
That'd be cool as. Okay.
One day.
Concerning the PlayStation PS5 event, which I'm pretty sure you have discussed earlier, if we then put the Xbox E3 gaming showcase next to it, did Sony and Microsoft successfully state their position coming into the 9th generation? P.S. I also wanted to give a shout out to New Zealand YouTuber Food for Dogs, a PlayStation and Nintendo gamer who came to my attention this week when her video about getting an Xbox Series S, her first Xbox, appeared via the YouTube algorithm. In Golden Girls terms, she is Sophia to your Dorothy, Blanche and Rose, and shows that enjoyment of gaming isn't limited by age. Good old Colin.
Nice.
Okay. Shout out to Food for Dogs. Yeah. I don't know of that YouTuber myself, but maybe I'll check her out. As to their shows, did it successfully state their position? Yeah, I think so. I mean, Sony showed that they're going to keep doing what they do best.
Making sequels to their good games.
And remasters and reselling you your games. And so Sony showed they're going to keep on doing what they do because it's working for them. And Microsoft showed that they're going to lean into Game Pass and get as much stuff on there as possible.
I think you can argue that Microsoft's show is more significant because they just laid out kind of such a strong immediate year that's coming up with Forza and Halo looked better and Starfield was coming out within a year from this fall. And the Sony stuff is all of that is further out than that for the most part. We don't even know when God of War is coming anymore, but I would not be surprised.
No, not even a year.
It was supposed to be 2022, but they didn't mention that again. And obviously, even if they did announce holiday 2022, there's a 50% chance at least it would get delayed to spring.
Well, the original trailer said 2021.
That was ridiculous.
I know. I'm aware. Don't get me wrong. But we went from the first showing being 2021 to now no year at all.
That's strange. So that's all 2 or 3 years out. But
yeah.
I think there's I've seen numerous hot takes and a couple that have kind of amused me. One was that people were saying that I saw a crazy one that does anyone worry that Sony are creatively bankrupt after this show? Because it was
I saw that.
It was all IPs that are big, comic book IPs. It was all sequels. It wasn't right. There was plenty, but yes, it was multi-plat. The other stuff, and it was always third party. But the crazy one I saw that really raised my eyebrows was the supposition that Sony lied. And I'm curious on your take here, Paul, because you cover both platforms, right? Obviously, we're an Xbox-slanted podcast. I've seen it repeated. You've probably seen this take, right? The whole we believe in generations, the whole putting dates like 2021 on God of War to make it, if you're about to pre-order a PS5, to make that first year seem bonkers. And then the truth comes out, and actually they're all games that are going to be on both platforms, your old console and your new. Completely makes sense. Was surprised when it wasn't appearing that they were going to be cross-gen. Do you feel that PlayStation lied, or sneaks their way
I
through
think
that.
I think lied is
It's a
probably
strong
too
word,
strong of a
right?
word. And
Yeah,
I
that's the
think
wrong
that,
word.
I think that "We Believe in Generations" quote was just a dumb thing to say. If you had any indication you were going to like be, making PS4 versions of these, and when you had sold at that point, I don't know, 100 million PS4s, like the obvious answer was you were probably going to be selling a lot of games wherever it was technically possible, outside of like Ratchet and Clank or something, on PS4. So it's only one line, and like it wasn't something that was like, a huge deal. But then the further and further it kind of got blown up more and more, and everyone keeps coming back to it, which, like, I understand why they did what they did, and like, they pivoted. They're like, okay, we can do this. It's not going to take anything away from the PS5 versions of these games. And so, like, why would we not sell it to a user base of 100 million people?
Yeah.
But it does come off now as a very dumb tagline when there are so few games that have actually embodied it. And, like, they have a couple of times, but not very often.
I think it goes back to what we were saying. Like, Sony knows how to lean into that angle. They know how to appeal to their fan base. They know the theater of the console wars and how to milk it and how to take advantage of it. They've always known how to do it. I believe they 100% said that on purpose, because they saw Microsoft carrying everything over from Xbox One, saying, no, we're not going to leave Xbox One behind, blah, 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 blah. And then they saw the narrative that grew from that, which was that Xbox games would be held back by Xbox One. So they took advantage of it, said, no, we believe in generations.
I think that's part of it as well. The reason that quote stuck out so more.
It's what they do. Like, and it worked, though. Like, it's funny. Everyone is so scared and wants to tiptoe around the whole, oh, no, these companies don't delve into the console wars. They 100% do.
Oh, yeah. That's my least favorite thing, is this narrative that, like, there are no console wars anymore because, like, each side says there aren't. Like, that's totally BS. Like, even on Microsoft's side, too. Microsoft is even trying to be like, we just want everyone to play games all together, and, like, we don't care what platform except Sony. Like, they're still in the battle here. Like, it's, don't pretend like they're not.
Oh dear, you got to wonder. I would love to be like behind closed doors for like one of the exec meetings where where they get one over, like the marketing team do a funny jab, and you have to wonder like what the real conversations are. But I do think that the narrative of "we believe in generations," and then you saw all the headlines going, oh, Microsoft aren't making any exclusive games for the Xbox Series S and X for 2 years, and it got blown up.
That's exactly right.
And then, it's actually reversed. It's genuinely reversed. Bar Halo Infinite and Forza Horizon 5, that's it. It's all...
But the thing is, like, it's not a lie. Sony does believe in generations, but they also believe in money. And they're also not going to leave 115 million PS4s behind. Like... They know what they're doing. They understand the theater of it. Like, have a look at them, right? That Sony sit there and talk about the DualSense. Oh my God, the DualSense is the best. Very Apple. Oh my God, it's magical. And look at all this stuff in the DualSense. Even though Nintendo had haptics in the Joy-Cons, Microsoft had their rumble triggers. Sony's like, oh my God, this stuff is amazing. And you can't have the DualShock 4 play PS5 games because the DualSense does all this incredible stuff. Yet I was playing Astrobot via remote play on my phone with the DualShock 4 just fine, and the game didn't break because I didn't have a DualSense. Sony 100% artificially blocked the DualShock 4 from playing on the PS5 to play PS5 games because they want to sell more DualSense controllers. Like, it's...
I think my funniest example of all this was Godfall, whereas Godfall, like, literally said... Like, this game is not possible on like last gen consoles, and then it is the only game to come out to then release like later to be down upgraded, de-upgraded to PS4 version somehow for some reason. Like, that was so bizarre.
Yeah. And you know what? You know what gamers should be upset about? Be upset that these companies still believe you're so immature and so juvenile that they know that marketing works on you. That's what I'd be upset about, that they don't treat us like adults. Because a lot of the time we don't act like
there's a reason.
Because a lot of the time we don't act like adults. That's the part
we're playing kids' toys. That's the...
that's the part I would get upset about. Don't be outraged at what they're saying. Be outraged that they treat you like children, like as opposed to treating you like adults. Like, and it works. I saw on Reset when that came out that you couldn't use the DualShock 4 to play PS5 games. I saw so many of those fanboys just eat it up and be like, yeah, because the DualSense, it's got this technology and you can't, nah, man, like those games can't possibly have the DualShock 4 do this. How would you play Astrobot with Bob? And I was playing Astrobot on my phone with my DualShock 4. Like, I've bought a DualShock 4 because it's got the share button and it works for the Xbox app as well as the PlayStation app. So it seems silly to me to just buy an Xbox controller to use for iOS because I remote play my PlayStation as well. So it made more sense to have a DualShock 4. But I played Astrobot just fine. Remote playing my PS5 and it worked great. So all that tells me is, all that tells me is that Sony are just trying to get money out of everyone to sell more DualSense controllers rather than going the consumer-friendly approach that Microsoft's gone with, which is like, yeah, no worries, keep using your Xbox One controllers, we don't care, whatever.
There you go. It was a good question. we all got
Tangent and a half.
Oh dear.
But yeah. Anyway. Okay. A few more questions. Nutjack, do you think there's a chance Eidos Montreal could be freed from Marvel and go back to Deus Ex if Guardians of the Galaxy isn't a big hit? While I like Spider-Man on PS4 a lot, I'm not excited about game devs I consistently enjoy getting swallowed up by Marvel.
Yeah, I'm a little worried about how Guardians is going to go. The reception of that just seems kind of like
muted.
Muted, and it doesn't seem like Eidos Montreal's like strong suit. I guess it's so wildly different than Deus Ex that it's kind of hard to fathom how that's going to, rely on some of the strengths they've established. But
yeah,
I know the last Deus Ex game just didn't do very well, and so they have no real kind of incentive to go back and finish that trilogy. Even though I know Elias Tufexis is like dying to do it, to be Adam one more time to finish it. If I would really love to see it, but I would be a little surprised. But I would also be surprised if Guardians was some kind of big sprawling hit also, because it doesn't give off that vibe. But
no,
I think
hope
it has,
it's good. But
yeah, I think it has the same problem Avengers has, in that when you've got a universe that Marvel have brought to life cinematically and has been a part of popular culture for a decade or more, and all the actors in it are household names, the look of them, the sound of them, the feel of the artwork, and then you make a game based on the IP and you don't pay the money to get the likeness and the license. People were just like, oh, it looks like a knockoff. Oh, it's not my character that I like. It's not written in the way that I like. It's and it just falls apart. So you'll get your high cost.
Look, it's hard to pull it up. I mean, Spider-Man did it somehow. Yeah. Like they pulled it off, even though there's 3 other Spider-Men. But that is the exception. And for a game like Arkham, you kind of have to firmly establish, like, the whole Arkham universe is like its own total thing. Whereas no one was comparing that really to any existing DC universe at the time.
True.
But now, like with the Avengers and the Guardians of the Galaxy game, it is directly comparable to the MCU. So that's an additional level of challenge.
I mean, look at Thor in God of War Ragnarok. Look at the controversy around Fat Thor.
How is that a controversy? He looks awesome.
That's just Norse mythology in action.
But the funny thing is, the God of War version is the more accurate representation of Thor. And Marvel already explored that anyway when they made Hemsworth fat in Endgame.
Yeah.
Like, they already. I found that one a weird one.
Did people not like that? I thought everybody loved him. I thought he was like the internet's most popular dude that day.
I don't know. Maybe it's more body shaming.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I've saw some
men
weird
get body shamed too.
I thought he was great.
Yeah, I mean, men get body shamed too. Everyone wanted the ripped Hemsworth.
It's
Thor.
So not like God of War though. I don't know. Like
that.
I thought it looked fine. I thought he was. I didn't even. When I saw a fat Thor, I was like, oh, yeah, like Hemsworth was fat in Endgame. I was like, I thought, if anything, they did copy the Marvel one because he was overweight in Endgame. So, I don't know. I don't know why people got upset at that.
There were worse hot takes on casting and characters in God of War. Some absolutely abhorrent crap out there because one character was black. Oh, but my Norse mythology... Oh, get the fuck out of here, you plonker. It's just.
Oh, really? Was that a thing too?
Oh,
Mhm.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
of course. Precious, white fragility. Oh no, they've made a character black.
No, we've made God of War woke.
It's
Okay.
like,
Yeah.
oh man, I could rant about it. I'm not gonna. They're all idiots. Never mind.
I don't know. But anyway, I don't think Eidos Montreal was tied down by anything because he says could be freed from Marvel. Isn't this the only Marvel thing they're doing?
I think so.
As far as we know, I bet they were excited to
and-
work on this. Honestly, I doubt they were
Yeah.
like, "Oh no, we have to make a Marvel game." Like, the studio's probably pretty excited to work on that. Honestly,
Yeah. And did Eidos Montreal do Shadow of the Tomb Raider?
I want
Were they
to.
the ones that did Shadow?
I want to say yes. I
I
think
want to
they.
say no. Did they?
Because Crystal Dynamics definitely
I would
didn't do
trust you more
Shadow.
than me.
Who developed?
Crystal Dynamics definitely didn't do Shadow. I just remember that Shadow was being done.
It says Crystal and Eidos Montreal and
Nix's.
Nix's.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Crystal would have overseen, but it was Eidos Montreal doing the heavy lifting, and I think that's why there's, I guess, quote unquote, concern with Guardians of the Galaxy, because if you look at the Tomb Raider games, Shadow of the Tomb Raider is considered the worst of the three.
It was.
I don't
fine.
even remember that game at all. That made no impression on me.
Yeah, it was fine.
That's the whole point. Where like I'm playing through Shadow now because it's got FPS boosted and stuff, and it's okay, but I'm not like it's not as good as Tomb Raider 2013 or Rise of the Tomb Raider.
Yeah.
And I think
the first Deus Ex game is like that was my game of the year that year. I loved that game so much.
Never played it.
I have faith in them that they can deliver on great stuff. It's just they're kind of in a weird place right now.
Yeah. Oh, well, hopefully Guardians of the Galaxy is good. I don't think it's a games as a service game, so that helps.
Yeah.
It's definitely not. They made that very clear.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay. Proven. Hey, Paul. As a big Halo fan, I've never been able to get into Destiny. Do you have any tips for me or anyone else who has been interested in Destiny but has never been able to dive all the way in? Thanks.
This is such a hard question because I feel like Bungie really shot themselves in the foot because they removed like the whole base campaign of Destiny 2 to like save space. So now you kind of jump in the middle. Like there's like free to play content. You can go to other planets, but they removed the original story campaign. So you can pick it up. There's a short kind of walkthrough quest line thing in the Cosmodrome, which kind of gets you started. From there, I would probably just focus on whatever the current season is rather than trying to go back and catch up through everything because that'll kind of be a mess and it'll be easier to get people to kind of help you along with current content. And if you want to know what happened, there's plenty of YouTube explainers and videos and stuff about things that happened in the past. And like if it hooks you, if the current stuff hooks you, then I would maybe go back and kind of catch your way up. But I feel like starting all the way back at the stuff that is now the start and moving forward may not be the play anymore because of the way the game's structured. But this is something I think the game keeps needing to work on because they literally removed the whole base campaign.
So yeah, because I've often, because it's on Game Pass, I kind of was like, you know what? I played through the Destiny 1 campaign with friends. I didn't have a bad time. Maybe one day I'll play through Destiny 2. But you're telling me that the all the cutscenes, all of the go from A to B to C to the end, that's just not there.
The first 2 years of the game are gone.
Wow.
Like forever.
Okay.
They said they wanted to do it to save space, and they kind of overhauled their whole engine and didn't want to also overhaul all that old stuff.
Wow.
But it is a lot of. It was like 60 to 70% of the like existing content in the game before they added some stuff back. But like it was a big deal at the time.
Damn.
Very controversial.
I did not realize it
I-
was to that extent. Jeez.
It was very massive. Yeah.
So I've tried to get into Destiny 2 twice now. And just for whatever reason, like I had like windows where I'm like, okay, I think I'm getting into this, and then it just.
You kind of.
But
need
I'm
a
guessing,
guide, like because it's very overwhelming to just kind of dive in yourself. So like it's better if a friend brings you in and can like kind of walk you through it. Because like just heading in solo, I can really understand why people would just get kind of overwhelmed and confused and not really know what's going on. So. That's not ideal, but I think that is kind of a key part of it too.
So I'm guessing that what I played is probably gone because I played early on. So
if you play, then
the first time I tried to play Destiny 2, I remember playing that bit where you're waiting, you're at that big gate, and it's like a horde, almost like a horde mode, like a mini horde sequence where enemies are just coming at you, and then you got to move on to the next part, and then a ship's taking off a platform, and you got to get on that ship. I vaguely remember something like that. Then the second time,
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and then the second time I remember playing in what was like an abandoned old village with like old wrecked buildings and stuff like that. Is that the stuff that's gone now?
So the quests are gone, and they took away some of the planets. That planet you're talking about is still there. It's just you probably couldn't do that mission you were doing. So they took away like 4 of the planets, but some of the old ones are there, but the missions are gone. It's not ideal, I would say. If you can figure it out, it is the most addicting, fun game that I can play, but the onboarding process is difficult, to say the least. But generally speaking, now with crossplay and everything they've added to it and it being free to play, this is a very good time to try. It's just, it may take a little bit of effort.
Today I learned the Destiny community is probably the most patient and understanding community in the world. I would flip my shit if it came.
We try to be, yeah.
Bye.
Yeah, wow.
Either that or the addiction is strong.
But
can you imagine that happening to Halo?
It's very controversial, because people paid for the content, now you just can't access it.
Oh wow! That's right, because Destiny was paid to begin with.
So technically, it's in a vault. So they could bring it back someday. They can bring old stuff back. They put everything in the vault. So stuff from Destiny 1 is now in Destiny 2. They brought some of that back. The Vault of Glass is now a free raid in Destiny 2. That's one of the free things they've added, the original raid. So they keep kind of shuffling in old stuff. So technically, nothing may be gone forever, but it was about 1.5 years ago that they lost a ton of content, and that was a big deal.
Mental.
Wow.
There you go.
Okay. Well, last question, which was added as we started recording, basically. profjjj, hello, gents. This question is for Paul. As the only American on the show today, are you excited about the start of the real football season? Your hosts on this show spend too much time talking about soccer and other... We don't talk about soccer. Neither of us cares. Neither of us cares about soccer. I'm Greek. I'm supposed to care about soccer a lot, and I don't give a rat's ass about soccer. We talk about friends and other foreign activities. I'm counting on you to bring some sanity to any sports talk today. On a more gaming-related note, are we ever going to get competition to the major sports games, Madden, FIFA, 2K basketball? It would be really nice if a developer could shake things up in that space. Thanks in advance for a great show. What are you into? Gridiron?
Yeah, I have some bad news about sports. I don't watch sports. I don't have time.
I'm proud of you, Paul.
With all the games I have to play, I can't keep up with all these live service games and then watch these shows and cover them. I can't watch 3-hour sports games every 2 days. I don't have time for it. So that is one thing. I'll watch my hometown college football team. I will maybe watch the World Cup when it's airing. I've gotten into F1 a little bit lately, but I don't follow a full season of anything, unfortunately. So that's just not my wheelhouse. And sports game thing, that's interesting because that's just such a licensing mess that it would be great if there was competition for those. And I think those most of those franchises get so stale because they have no competition in effect.
That's right.
But it's these deals in place that are so hard to kind of untangle and execute that for multiple ones to be going at a time, so they're more competitive. I just don't know who would kind of want to get wrapped up in that web and be like, I want to be the NFL franchise that takes on Madden. Nobody wants to do that. That's such an uphill climb. So I don't think you're going to see a ton of that, and that's probably why, unfortunately. But
we've spoken about this before, and I've always said the angle someone should take is to become the NBA Jam NFL Blitz.
Yes, that is a good take. Yes.
You're not going to take on Madden. You're not going to take on FIFA. Don't bother. So why not relive the glory of NBA Street, NFL Blitz, FIFA, Sega Soccer Slam, and become the company that says, okay, we're not going to bother taking on EA, but we're going to become the EA of the extreme sports games. Because really, right now, your alternative is Nintendo with Mario Golf, Mario Tennis, all that sort of stuff. So
extreme.
Someone needs to come along now, and whether it's Ubisoft, whether it's Microsoft, whether it's Sony, someone needs to come along and say, okay, well, we're going to do the fun arcadey version of all these sports games. NBA Street was amazing. NBA Jam, that more recent one on 360 and PS3 was awesome. Sega Soccer Slam to this day is still completely fun and playable. NFL Blitz, like that's a market that's not really being tapped by anyone. Like, it's
I think there's two things need to happen. One, people need to stop buying the annual sports game. The fatigue needs to actually hit the audience and be like, you know what, I'm not doing this. I think Bruno on our site reviewed NFL
Madden.
22, Madden, whatever it's freaking called, and he was like, it's fine. It's the same game I played 3 years ago. You know, like, and if that's the case, like, come on, stop giving you money. And unfortunately, it's because people like sports that it keeps selling, because you like to see.
That's why I stopped buying FIFA.
There's people who only buy, like, their only involvement in gaming is buying Madden and FIFA every year, and like that's it. Yeah. That's their whole gaming, and like. So they don't care about any of this. They don't care about anything we're saying. So they're just gonna keep doing it indefinitely.
That's why I stopped buying FIFA. Like I was a religious FIFA purchaser. I got the original one in 94 on Mega Drive. And then every year, 95, 96, 97. I've still got my copy of 96 on the Saturn. I've still got my copy of 2006 on OG Xbox because it's backwards compatible on 360, believe it or not.
Wow.
I bought FIFA religiously up to and including 2010, which came out in 2009 because it's always that year before. And once the biggest mistake I reckon EA made was putting demos out for their annual sports games, because that's what got me to stop buying FIFA. Like, I tried the demo for FIFA 11 and I was like, this is FIFA 10. So I didn't bother buying it. And it was the same with 12 and 13 and 14. I think I bought 17 because that one felt different to the others. Like, it actually
it's been a decade. Like maybe it's new now.
Yeah, maybe something changed.
Yeah, it actually felt different to 10. Yeah. And then everyone since has felt the same again. So I haven't bought another FIFA since 17.
Good for you. Wow. You've broken the habit.
I'd rather I wish they'd make them platforms. Make FIFA a platform and let me choose to buy roster updates.
It won't happen. It won't happen.
They won't unless they stop selling.
That's how chicken and the egg.
I'd love that. Ultimate Team is one of the most profitable things in the whole industry. Like, it's wild. So that's its own universe.
But there you go.
Yeah,
well, look,
I know.
We've got to the end of community questions, and thus we are drawing to a close. So before we shoot off,
sorry, Paul, we kept you way longer.
Sorry, now it looks like it's like midnight here. It's so pitch black. I should have had my light on to start with.
It is coming up to 2 a.m. for me, but massive thank you, Paul, for taking some time out.
Thanks for coming on.
It's been awesome to have you. I hope you enjoyed the grilling from our community somewhat, but I think it came across fine.
I thought the community questions were okay.
I'm on Twitter all day, every day. I got thick skin at this point.
Fair point.
That's where he replies to me on Twitter. I DM him on Discord, and I don't get a reply.
I'm never on Discord. I can't manage both Twitter and Discord. It's too much for me.
I think I actually used the summoning circle on Twitter and you appeared, which was hilarious.
Yeah. No, I see all my tags on Twitter, just not Discord.
But, it's been a blast. I really enjoyed having you on. And I'm sure we'll have you on again at some point when some of these Microsoft games drop and see how you feel the industry's coping. I'll pause for a second. If you want to plug anything, please do so now.
Sure. All right, I'm just at Paul Tassi on Twitter. You can follow me there. I have a YouTube channel that I mostly do Destiny videos on. So if you're really into Destiny, you can go there. And then if you just Google me, you'll get about 5 Forbes articles a day about all the various things I write there. So, yeah.
Are you still doing the Fortnite guides?
I've been slacking the past couple of weeks here because there's been so much other news. But the new season, there's an event tomorrow, season switchover event. So I'll cover that, and I'll start doing challenges when the new season launches. So
I'll
don't worry,
need to jump into that with my kids.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, all right. So aside from that, as always, feel free to check out our forums, jump on the Patreon if you think you can spare a coffee a month and help support what we do. And we'll be back. One small update: the special guest, the super special guest that we've been teasing. I do have.
He's not coming on, is he?
He's coming on. He's coming on.
Oh, we finally heard back, did we?
I've heard back.
Oh,
We're just figuring out the date. It is happening. And no one's guessed yet, but I am looking forward to teasing that. But I know we've got another slate of even more people coming up that you're working on as well.
Oh, no. People aren't returning my messages.
Oh, well.
People aren't returning my messages.
Maybe not. Well, I've got someone coming, so it should be fun.
I'll just come back next week.
There you go.
I had all these people that were like, yeah, I'd love to be on, and then you nudge them, and they're like, cool, this week. They're like, oh, a bit busy this week, and then you nudge them again. They're like,
trust me, man.
You know what, man?
It's end of summer holiday season.
You all last month.
I don't know.
It is end of summer
when
holidays.
we get big enough, if we ever get big enough, where we start getting requests to be on our show rather than us hounding people, I'm going to start knocking guests back.
Oh.
And so listen.
Kind of busy.
You were too good for us before, okay? Now we're too good for you.
Yeah,
okay?
you're going to get all vindictive on this. Okay. All right.
Hey, I am all about being petty.
Okay.
I'm all about that life.
Yeah.
As he says, folks, be a prick.
Be a prick.
Right, we'll end it there. Thank you ever so much, everyone, for watching, and we will see you next time.
Ciao for now.
Yeah.